Live from the Sports and Recreation Center on the campus of the College of Staten Island, you're watching exclusive home opener basketball coverage right here on CSI Sportsnet. Tonight, the College of Staten Island will take on Stephen Institute as Staten Island opens up their home regular season after 4 games on the road. Hi, everybody. I'm Mike Bribuski along with Joe Foreman. And Joe, it seemed like just a little while ago we were here broadcasting CSI men's basketball, a season where the Dolphins went undefeated in the regular season, were able to win the CUNYAC championship and advance to the NCAA tournament. Brand new year here in 2017. Brand new head coach. They've already played 4 games, and they're 1-3 coming into the home opener here tonight.
And a lot of roster turnover for this Dolphins team as well following that CUNYAC championship last year. Of course, they lost Frank Schettino, really the team leader, of course, the leader in scoring, who has moved on to bigger things in basketball. I heard he had signed a professional contract internationally at one point following the offseason last year, so congratulations to Frank. But now, of course, this year's Dolphin team, as you mentioned, coming in now already 4 games deep into their 2017-2018 campaign, come in with a record of 1-3. I've yet to see them play this season, Mike, but you do say that despite the record, you've told me there's a lot to be excited about this year.
Yeah, you know, the Dolphins started off the regular season and they went up to Yeshiva University, Joe, and it was the first game as head coach at Staten Island for TJ Tibbs. And, you know, the team played pretty well but struggled really to shoot in that game and lost that first game by a final score of 86-75. And, you know, then they went down into Lebanon Valley to play in a tournament, and they had a very nice win against Yasiris, 85-77. And they played very well in that game. They shot pretty well and, you know, played pretty good defense, but then a couple of tough opponents back-to-back. First playing Lebanon Valley on their home floor, a team that traditionally is played very strongly in Division III and has made the NCAA tournament several times. And the Dolphins fell behind that game early and lost by 95-65. And then the game against Wagner College, obviously a Division I team, Joe, where the Dolphins went in and they were a little undersized. And, you know, they fell behind 13-10 in that game. And then Wagner was able to go on a bit of a run, so to say, in that game, and the Dolphins really struggled to compete in that one. But, you know, now the regular season starts here at home. The last game for the Dolphins before the CUNYAC play gets underway, and lots of things to get excited about, Joe, and we could start talking about this brand-new team. And, you know, where else are you going to start with the fact that, you know, head coach Tony Petosa, after all these years and 300-plus wins, leaves the team, resigns during the offseason. TJ Tibbs, the point guard from the team that brought the Dolphins to the Sweet 16 back in 2011, 2012, comes in and takes over. So, you know, when you start talking about the Dolphins here this year, you got to start with the fact that they're replacing their head coach.
Of course, and you mentioned that the Dolphins are playing a very up-tempo style this year here in 2017, 2018, getting out in transition. A lot of great athletes on this team who can really play up above the rim for the Dolphins here in 2017, 2018 as well. But you did mention, however, that the Dolphins have been shooting the ball poorly. The number for the season right now is at 38%. Well, they're allowing the opposition to shoot nearly 48%. You did mention, however, a pair of very high-quality opponents the Dolphins faced in Lebanon Valley and against Wagner College as well. Those 2 losses, very big losses that may have inflated the numbers put up against the Dolphins so far here this season. But also, not only have they shot poorly overall from the field, but from three-point range as well, only shooting over 28%. We'll see if they can improve that number here today. Of course, when you get it in transition, a lot of shots around the rim and a lot of three-pointers. We'll see if that's the offense the Dolphins look to run here tonight against Stevens Institute. A game that should be competitive. Stevens does lead the all-time series over CSI, but these 2 teams have had some very good games in the past, including the first ever Dolphins game that I covered, a game 2 years ago, where I believe it was Vinny DeCunto who hit a game-winning 3 for the Dolphins at the buzzer to put them over Stevens Institute by only a single point. A very exciting game, and I look forward to hopefully another exciting affair between these 2 teams tonight.
Dan, you know, for those of you that have been following the Dolphins on the road, you know that Robert Rossiter, one of the returning players for the Dolphins, has not played at all for the Dolphins this year. He He returns to the starting lineup here tonight. And Eden Brocic, who missed the first couple of games, is back in the starting lineup as well, Joe. So a couple of returning veterans for the Dolphins in the starting lineup tonight, and that should be a help.
And that pair of players certainly should help the Dolphins with their issues shooting from the floor. Eden Brocic, a player who the Dolphins often utilize as a three-point shooter. They look to set him screens off the ball. He finds openings on the floor, often has a quick trigger from downtown, but he's very efficient from three-point range. And something you don't see too often in the game these days is an effective mid-range game, and that's something that Robert Rossiter brings to this Dolphins team as well. One of the purest-looking jump shots on this roster from mid-range. He's looked for that shot consistently as his go-to form of attack at the offensive end, and the Dolphins really could use the shooting of both Rossiter and Brocic here tonight against a Stevens Institute team that really outsizes the Dolphins, and that's something that we've talked about before in prior pre-games. I believe you mentioned the size disadvantage that the Dolphins men's team has often found themselves at during the women's pregame last time when we talked about both teams getting their seasons underway. And for the men, again, we mentioned lacking size. That's something that Stevens Institute does not lack, and they'll need good shooting to combat that size differential here tonight.
So we're here with the 2017 home opener at the CSI Sports and Recreation Center, and we're going to step aside and take a break here for a minute and bring you a couple of words from our sponsor at One-on-One. And then we'll be back, Joe, to break down some of the new plays and let the fans know what to expect here with this 2017 CSI Dolphins men's basketball team. So we're going to step aside, take a break. You're watching opening day coverage exclusively on your voice of everything CSI Sports, CSI Sportsnet, CSIDolphins.com.
One-on-One is an independently owned and operated physical therapy center since 1999.
One-on-One has multiple offices located in Staten Island and in Brooklyn.
One-on-One has been getting people back to living pain-free for almost 14 years.
The number one goal of One-on-One is to provide quality health care for our community and continue to strive to be the best in our field.
One-on-One physical therapy gets our clients back to work, back to play, and back to function as soon as possible. We help them reclaim their life.
We're back here at the CSI Sports and Recreation Center, and we're just moments away from the start of the 2017 home opener between the College of Staten Island and Stevens Institute. Stevens Institute coming into today's game, Joe, playing pretty good basketball, and we'll take a look at them in just a couple of minutes. But let's take a couple of minutes here to talk about this CSI Dolphin team in 2017. You mentioned a little bit earlier, Frankie Schettino, after a stellar 4-year career as a CSI Dolphin, graduating and going on in his career. And Christian Taylor is going to be the player that the Dolphins are looking to come in and replace him. And, you know, Christian's played pretty well so far, Joe. He's tied for the team lead in scoring. He's averaging just under 15 points a game, averaging 7 rebounds and just under 3 assists. So he's come out and played pretty well here in his first 4 games as starting point guard for the Dolphins.
And Christian Taylor was a player who gave the Dolphins a lot off the bench last year during their CUNYAC championship run and throughout the entirety of the 2016-2017 season. And you mentioned they'll be looking for big things from him again this year as well. He's been up to the task so far from the field, shooting 54% on the season, and that's among the team leaders, just shy of the team lead in that category from the field. But of course, he's taken a high volume of shots as a starting player. And also, you mentioned new players contributing as well. Adiola Latunji has been a big part of the Dolphins scoring as well, tied for the team lead with Taylor in points per game at 14.8. He's shooting just shy of 40% from the field for CSI so far this season. So a pair of players leading the Dolphins in scoring, one a familiar face and one a new face here in 2017-2018.
And one of the players that was coming off the bench last year for the Dolphins, Joe, in providing offensive spark was Stephen Flagg, of course. This year, Flagg thrust into the starting lineup. He did score 20 points in the game against Wagner College the other night, and he's also playing very well, averaging just under 11 points a game for the Dolphins, and the Dolphins looking for big things out of Steven here in 2017.
And taking a look at the Dolphins' leading scorers, we've already mentioned, of course, Adiola Latunji, Christian Taylor, and now Stephen Flagg. Also, Darryl Bryant, fourth on the team in scoring. 3 of those 4 players, Bryant, Flagg, and Taylor, all players that were reserves for the Dolphins last year, now playing a big role in scoring for this team. Of course, Robert Rossler and Edin Bracic haven't played in all of the games thus far this season. I believe Rossler making his season debut today after what looked like a more serious injury that could keep him out. You mentioned that it didn't look like Robert would be able to get back out on the court anytime soon during one of our previous women's basketball broadcasts. But here tonight, we find him in the starting lineup and playing, of course, for the Dolphins tonight against the Ducks. Now, I mentioned before, the Dolphins need the scoring of both he and Edin Bracic. They've really struggled from the field and seen a pair of big margins of defeat in their last 2 games. Again, that against very stout competition. They'll look to right the ship here tonight, and shooting the ball well from the field will undoubtedly be a big part of getting that done.
Then, you mentioned Darryl Bryant as well, Joe. Darryl's playing very well, and Rudy Lavitshaw, another one of the freshman players for the Dolphins, also showing a lot of ability, Joe. And, the one thing we've seen in the first 4 games for the Dolphins is they're very athletic, but they're very young and they're very small. And, that's going to be something that they're going to have to learn to adapt to playing throughout the year.
Of course, and I've always mentioned it in other broadcasts, when you have a height disadvantage, you'll also often look to exploit a speed advantage. We'll see if the Dolphins have that particular advantage here tonight, but it goes without saying, the Dolphins will need to shoot the ball better from the field. They just haven't gotten it done from the field or from three-point range so far this season. 28% will rarely be good enough to get it done, and they need to get that field goal percentage at least to about 40% in order to be consistent in winning games this season. They also can't allow their opponents to shoot nearly 48 or 49% from the field. So they'll have to exploit their speed advantage and do a better job defensively, as well as shoot the ball a bit more effectively from the field. If they can get up above 40% from the field and hold their opponents down around between 40 and 43% from the field, that should be good enough to win games on a consistent basis. We'll see if they can do that here tonight and pick up a victory. They're first at home in the 2017-2018 season.
And Joe, while we have a couple of minutes, why don't we take a look at this Stevens Institute basketball team? They're coming into today's game with a record of 2-3. But, again, you got to be careful when you take a look at the record. A couple of their losses include a loss to number 3 Williams College on the road, and a loss in their last game to Rutgers Newark by a score of 80-73. And, those were a couple of quality opponents right there. Their other loss came in a close game, a 4-point loss to New Jersey City University. And, the one thing we know about this Stevens team is that they have the ability to score, averaging a little bit less in points than they were last year, but still coming into today's game, averaging just under 77 points a game.
And the big reason they score well is that they've shot the ball well from the field. Overall from the field, they've shot over 40%, and from three-point range, nearly 35%. Both of those numbers, very solid numbers. However, they have allowed their opponents to shoot nearly 46% from the field and over 36% from three-point range. So Stevens Institute, certainly a team that can shoot the basketball and score the basketball, but so far this season they have been susceptible to allowing the three-point basket and have seen their opponents shoot well from the field overall. They'll need to limit the Dolphins shooting from the field here tonight, and this may be the opportunity the Dolphins need to shoot better from the field. They've really struggled, as we've mentioned already, several times, and against a team that has allowed a good opponent shooting percentage, perhaps the Dolphins can find the openings here tonight in the Ducks defense and put some points up on the scoreboard, while at the same time really tightening up their defense, as they've allowed a lot of points themselves as well.
Yeah, the Dolphins have struggled a little bit in some of these games on the defensive end, and, they're going to have to look to stop sophomore guard Spencer Cook here tonight. Cook leading the Ducks in scoring, averaging just under 18 points a game for Stevens. And, you look down this scoring column, Joe, for Stevens Institute, and you see 8 different players that average 5 or more points a game. So, head coach Bobby Hurley going to the bench and using a lot of players for the Ducks.
You mentioned several players, of course, scoring at least 5 points a game, but only a pair of players scoring in double digits. So I think if you're the Dolphins, you need to look to shut down Spencer Cook in this game. Of course, that's easier said than done, shutting out the opposition's most effective offensive player. But with only a pair of players that score in double figures, if you can slow down that leading scorer who's averaging nearly 18 a game, it should set you up for some more success at the defensive end. Force some of those players who score 5 a game to maybe score 10 a game and see if they can beat you. Spencer Cook, of course, has proven that he can beat the opposition so far this season, shooting nearly 44% from the field and 35% from three-point range on 73 field goal attempts, 26 of those from three-point range this season. He's shown he can beat you shooting the basketball. If you're the Dolphins, maybe you look to slow him down and force another player to beat you here tonight. That seems to be a good place to start until someone else proves that they can knock down the shots necessary to win the game for the Ducks here tonight.
And, you know, Joe, you're looking at the CSI Dolphin team, and they've been out-rebounded by 14 rebounds per game. Allowing 50 rebounds and averaging just 36. Stevens Institute out-rebounding their opponents by just under 3 rebounds a game. So one of the keys for the Dolphins tonight is to find some way to get a little bit more balance in those rebounding totals.
And the rebounding definitely could prove to be a big issue for the Dolphins here tonight. I'm taking a look right now at the Ducks roster. I see a pair of players listed at 6'7", another player listed at 6'5", and looking at that the Dolphins roster in front of me right now, it doesn't seem that CSI has the size to combat that. Only a pair of players listed at least 6'5" on this Dolphins roster. So CSI really will have a big battle on their hands underneath on the glass, and they're going to have to do a better job than their stats have indicated so far here this season. And if Stevens Institute rebounds the ball the way that they're accustomed to, they could find themselves with a huge advantage in second chance points, points in the paint, as well as several other categories that stem from a huge rebounding margin in your favor.
So we're just about 2 minutes or so away from the start of the introductions and the start of tonight's game. Why don't we step aside, take a break, and we'll be back in just a couple of minutes to bring you the starting lineups and the start of tonight's game between the College of Staten Island and Stevens Institute as you're watching men's basketball coverage exclusively on your voice of everything CSI Sports, CSI Sportsnet, CSIDolphins.com.
It's harder whenever there's a bigger group. Pretty much a good day for me would be people leaving their hands off of me. I'm always called names. Everywhere that I go, there's always someone calling me names, calling me gay. I've been choked. Thrown up against a wall, punched. Nobody's ever tried to help me.
Alvin and the Chipmunks want to remind you, bacteria can hide in food and make you ill.
Wow.
But you can keep bacteria from ruining your day with 4 simple steps. Clean.
I'm waiting for the rinse cycle.
Separate. Cook.
Fire in the hole!
And chill.
We chipmunks are notoriously tidy.
Check your steps. The road trip to food safety starts at foodsafety.gov.
So they say it's a man's world? I don't see anybody's name on it. While they were doing their thing, we slowly changed ours. Today, women can do anything men can do. And there's one thing we're even better at.
Of all the things you've done with your bike, donating it to Goodwill may be the most incredible of all. Your donations help fund job placement and training for people in your community, which means your stuff can be more powerful than you think. Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs.
Hart, what's going on? I'm leaving. Why? What did I do? Not enough. You constantly ignore me. You barely eat anything healthy. You're half as active as you used to be. The pressure is just too much. I quit. Okay, I get it. I'll do better. Just, please, don't leave. Okay. But remember, if I go, you go.
Listen to your heart. Don't let it quit on you. Uncontrolled high blood pressure could lead to stroke, heart attack, or death. Get yours to a healthy range before it's too late.
We're back, and we're just moments away from the start of the home opener tip-off between the College of Staten Island and the Stevens Institute Ducks. And, you know, Joe, we have just a minute before we get to the starting lineups. Why don't we get an update on the CSI women's team, who's actually on the road at Hunter College tonight playing against NYU.
And if you're a fan of CSI basketball, you'll be happy with the current state of affairs up at Hunter College right now, where, as you mentioned, Mike, the CSI women's basketball team taking on the Violets of NYU. Right now, it is CSI by 14. The third quarter just got underway. 9:10 remaining in the third quarter of that game. The Dolphins lead by a score of 36-22 over the Violets of NYU. Once again, the women's basketball score, the Dolphins 36, and the Violets 22.
Yeah, the Dolphins have 11 points apiece from Jackie Callie and Christina Passatoro in that game. So now as the players are introduced out on the floor, why don't we bring you tonight's starting lineups? And here to bring you those starting lineups, my broadcast partner, Joe Foreman. Joe?
All right, thank you, Mike. We'll begin with the visiting Ducks of Stevens Institute in the order that I have them here. The forwards, number 23, Jake Krantz, and number 50, Thomas Cook. Players listed as guards are number 1, Jason Winnick, number 14, Spencer Cook, and number 25, Frank Amari. And now the starters for the Dolphins of the College of Staten Island. The forwards, number 1, Stephen Flagg, and number 31, Robert Rossiter, making his debut in the 2017-2018 season. The guards for CSI, number 2, Adiola Latunji, number 3, Eden Brocic, and number 23, Christian Taylor. That is the starting lineup for the CSI Dolphins.
And for the Dolphins, Eden Brocic just making his third appearance of the season. And Joey's just played a total of 10 minutes so far in those first two appearances. And, Robert Rossiter again getting his feet wet as well. So a big game for the Dolphins tonight, an opportunity to come out and play on the home floor, Joe, in what's going to be their final non-conference game before the conference schedule gets underway this Saturday.
And we mentioned how important both Rossiter and Brocic are to this Dolphins team, and they're an integral part of this team shooting the ball well from the field. I spoke about it in the pregame. Shooting the ball well from the field will be key for the Dolphins. That's been the deciding factor in some of their games thus far this season. Simply poor shooting that hasn't gotten it done. They haven't put up enough points to win those games. And here tonight, against a team that rebounds the ball and scores the ball extremely well, they'll need to be on their game from the field. Rossiter and Brocic certainly should help with that. Also, the Dolphins need to step it up defensively. We mentioned that some of the stats against CSI have been inflated by high-quality opponents so far this season. But if you take a look at the scoring margin, I believe it was at nearly 20 points per game against the Dolphins. So the Dolphins losing by an average of nearly 20 points. That is so far this season. They'll look to see that number improve after tonight's affair with the Ducks.
And both teams very different. Joe, you mentioned earlier the Dolphins lost to Stevens 103-93 out in Hoboken last year. So the opening tip goes out of bounds. So we'll jump once again to get underway here. And the ball is up in the air, and the opening tip is controlled by the Ducks, and it'll be Winnick with the basketball now for Stevens as he gets it over to Amari. Amari looking to drive his way inside. The ball's going to be he's going to step on the end line, so the turnover will go to the Dolphins.
And a nice job by the Dolphins there, trapping the ball handler on the baseline, giving him nowhere to go. They also cut off the passing lane to the opposite side of the court. A good start defensively for CSI.
So Stevens comes out and shows a little bit of a trap, and it's going to be Taylor bringing the ball up over the midcourt line there, guarded by Umari. Now it's going to go to Rossiter. Rossiter with his first start of the year, and he's going to get called for the travel. So both teams exchange turnovers, Joe, on their opening possession.
And that's much like the way the last women's game we covered started. A lot of turnovers for both sides, and that was an ugly first half in that game at least. We hope that we don't have to see that again, as it was really rough first half for both teams in that game.
Umari getting the ball up over to Cook. Now the ball gets fed inside. The shot's going to be blocked away, but it's going to be regained by Cook, and he's going to lose possession once again. Now it's fed inside, but stolen once again. 2 turnovers apiece, and now the ball fed ahead of the field, and the layup is up and no good and it'll remain Stevens basketball. So a little bit of a sloppy start here, Joe, for both teams.
A very sloppy start. A pair of turnovers for both teams already, but a great rejection there by Robert Rossiter, getting a hand on that layup attempt and avoiding the goaltending call as he tipped that ball as soon as it was released from the shooter's hand.
And driving inside is Umari, who lays it up and in. So Umari gets the first basket of the game, and the Ducks lead by a score of 2-0. Taylor now bringing the ball up across the midcourt line. He's working one-on-one against Umari. Taylor now gets it over to Rossiter. Rossiter out at the three-point line. Now he takes the three-pointer. It's up, no good. And the rebound grabbed by Thomas Cook. Stevens looking to run. Dolphins able to get back. Umari feeds the ball in the corner. That shot is off, and the rebound grabbed by Flagg. Now it's Taylor. Taylor driving his way inside, but the Dolphins turn the ball over once again, and Stevens looks to run, and they have numbers. Umari working the ball out to Coffey. Coffey's long jumper is up, no good, and the rebound grabbed by Rossiter. Joe, Dolphins looking to get in some kind of offensive flow here.
And it's been a sloppy start for CSI. Already 3 turnovers for the Dolphins as they nearly commit a fourth, but that ball knocked away and out of bounds on the baseline. So the Dolphins will inbound with 23 on the shot clock. But if you're the Dolphins, this is the start you wanted to avoid. Haven't knocked down a field goal yet through the first 2 minutes. Also 3 turnovers to go along with having not knocked down a shot.
So Flagg inbounds the ball, and he gets it over to Rossiter. Rossiter, a nice drive down the baseline, but his layup is up, no good. And the rebound grabbed by Cook. And now it's Winnick. Winnick looking to work against Brocic. He drives his way inside. Bounce pass goes in the corner to Amari. Latunji nearly came away with the steal, but instead Umari able to regain possession. 13 seconds remaining on the shot clock. And now the ball gets fed up over to Coffey. Coffey works it over to Winnick. Winnick feeds it inside to Umari, but he steps on the end line once again. And Stevens will turn the ball over, so it'll be Dolphins basketball.
And that's 3 turnovers for each of these 2 teams now, only 2.5 minutes into the first half.
So it'll be Brocic with the basketball now for the Dolphins. Gets it over to Taylor as the Dolphins still looking for their first points here in the first half. Taylor, Latunji. Stops his jumper from the top of the key is up, no good, and that's going to go off the shot clock and out of bounds. So it'll be Duck basketball. Dolphins still looking for their first field goal of the afternoon, but the good news is, Joe, they've also done a good job holding Stevens to just a basket, and now Taylor will pick up his first personal of the night.
And I spoke about it in the pregame, a key for the Dolphins. Really 2 keys to winning this game are doing a better job shooting from the field and holding their opponents to a lesser shooting percentage from the field. They've done the second here tonight so far in this game. The Ducks only 1 of 4 from the field. Also 3 turnovers forced by the Dolphins as well. But the Dolphins, again, yet to knock down a shot from the field.
Sorry, Joe. Cook hands it off to Umari. He worked it in the corner, but Latunji comes up with the steal. He takes it coast to coast and jams it home. Adeola Latunji showing some of that athletic ability, Joe, we were talking about during the pregame, ties it at 2. Ball gets worked in the corner now. Coffey drives down the lane. His layup is up, no good, but he'll be called for the offensive foul.
And this building was definitely energized by that dunk from Adeola Latunji. You mentioned the athleticism of this team in the pregame, Mike, and when we spoke about it off the air last week, you said this team can really run and play above the rim, and we saw an example of that right there on that 2-handed jam by Adeola Latunji, and we'll see if that can get the Dolphins going as they have their first 2 points up on the scoreboard, their first field goal here in this first half, 16:42 remaining in half number 1.
And we're going to have a substitution now for the Dolphins as Eden Brocic will check out of the game and Darryl Bryant will check in for CSI. Ball gets inbounded now, and here come the Dolphins across the midcourt line as it's Bryant. He hands the ball off to Taylor. Taylor working defensively against Michael Zignorski, who checked into the game for Stevens as well. Now Taylor looks to drive his way inside. He's going to be shut off, but he will draw the foul. That foul is going to be on Dylan Walsh. And, we mentioned earlier, Joe, that the Ducks like to play a lot of players, and they've already changed several players in their lineup as the ball gets fed inside to Bryant. A nice defensive play by the Ducks to knock it away. I believe that was JoJo Mosca that got his hand on the ball, and the Dolphins turned it over once again.
And it was a group substitution following that two-handed jam by Lutunji. Perhaps the Ducks bench didn't like what they saw.
So now it's going to be Krantz with the basketball. He hands the ball off over to Mosca. It's worked in the corner, and the open three-pointer is good. So Dylan Walsh, who just checked into the game, buries the three-pointer, and the Ducks lead 5-2. Bryant with the basketball now for the Dolphins. Bryant working against Kevin Florio. Bryant crossover dribble, now works his way inside. He tries to drive his way in, but he's going to get called for the carry. So that's a couple of quick turnovers on Bryant since checking into the game.
And it's really been a struggle for these two teams in the turnover department thus far. 5 turnovers per side, as you see there on your screen. It's the Ducks bringing it up now. We'll look to avoid a 6th.
So the ball gets fed inside, and the floating one-hander that time by Walsh is up no good. And now it's Taylor with the basketball. Taylor behind the back dribble, and he stumbles and draws the foul on Stevens. That foul's going to be on number 20. That's Michael Zignorski, who checked into the game. He's going to pick up his first personal 13 foul for the Ducks, so the Dolphins will inbound the basketball. But first, the Dolphins with a couple of substitutions, Joe.
And it's number 5, Darrell Bryant. Number 14, Christian Kopech entering the game for CSI, replacing Flagg and Rossiter.
So the Dolphins to inbound the basketball as Kopech will inbound. Kopech getting it up over to Taylor. He drives his way inside, but that's going to be no good. And here comes Walsh as the Ducks look to run once again. They feed it over to Mosca. His open three-pointer is up no good. And we're going to have a whistle, and it looks like it's going to be a loose ball foul on the Ducks. And I believe that's going to be on Jay Krantz, Joe.
And both teams are looking to play very quickly in transition off of any defensive rebound. Both teams looking to run. We've seen turnovers a product of that style of play thus far here in this first half. Both teams with 5, and now the Dolphins will head back the other way.
So just 3 baskets here throughout the first 4.5 minutes, and we're going to have a whistle and a blocking foul as Kopech will draw the foul. And the Dolphins will inbound once again as the Ducks pick up their 4th foul. Looking to see on the scoreboard who they called that one against, Joe. But anyway, Kopech will inbound the basketball, and it's going to be Bryant. Bryant pull-up jumper from the free throw line is no good. Fight for the rebound, and it's going to be grabbed there by Krantz, and the Ducks look to run once again as it's going to be Walsh. Walsh now feeding it up over to Mosca. His short jumper is up no good. The ball tipped around. Fight for possession, and the ball's going to be out of bounds as that time Bryant fell on the ball on the baseline, so it will remain Duck basketball.
And the Dolphins did a good job there swarming for that rebound. Unfortunately, Bryant fell onto the baseline diving for that ball. But the way this game has gone thus far, second chance points could be a big deciding factor, and the Dolphins need to try and limit these second chance opportunities moving forward.
5 minutes into the game, the Dolphins trail by a score of 5-2 as we're going to have a whistle and a foul, and that's going to be off the ball, and I believe that's going to be on Darrell Bryant as the Dolphins are going to pick up their second team foul here in the first half. Jade Spencer also on the floor now for the Dolphins as the ball is going to be handed up over to Walsh. Walsh feeding it out over to Zignorski. His layup is up no good, but the ball will be out of bounds, and it will be Dolphin basketball. Dolphins now with Kopech out on the floor, along with Christian Taylor as they are going to substitute now Raymond Savage into the game. He'll be joined by Jade Spencer and Darrell Bryant. So a lot of changes in the Dolphin lineup early in the game as well, Joe.
Both teams going to the bench early and often, looking to keep the players out there on the court fresh. And there's been no shortage of opportunities around the rim for the Ducks. They just haven't been able to convert, as right there Taylor is emphatically rejected at the rim by Krantz.
Yeah, he was. So it'll remain Dolphin basketball now with 15 seconds to shoot. 14:32 remaining here in the first half. Only 3 baskets combined, Joe, for both teams.
And that's a product of both stifling defense and some turnovers. The shot selection has not been poor thus far in this game. That's not the reason for the bad shooting.
So now it's Bryant with the basketball. He tries to work his way inside, but he turns the ball over once again. as the ball is going to be fed inside. The layup is up no good, but it's going to be a foul on Krantz as he goes over the back and picks up his second personal since checking into the game.
I don't think there's much of a doubt about that call. Krantz didn't like it, and it will relegate him to the bench. It's yet another substitution. It's Alec DiPietrantonio. That is a long name that took me by surprise. DiPietrantonio. So excuse me as I stumbled over that name.
And it's going to be Bryant bringing up the ball now as he's guarded by Florio across the midcourt line now for the Ducks. Bryant with 18 seconds to shoot. Bounce pass goes up over to Taylor. He drives his way inside. A lot of contact, no foul, but the ball's going to be knocked out of bounds and it will remain Dolphin basketball. And Taylor thought there was some contact on the play, Joe, but no foul called.
And we've seen some players unhappy with the officiating thus far in this game. Earlier on the blocking foul call that went in the favor of the Dolphins, they thought that Christian Kopech extended his arm. They didn't get that call earlier in the game either. And now a timeout here as both teams will huddle. I didn't catch which team called that timeout.
I believe it was the Dolphins, Joe, but it's just going to be a 30-second timeout. So why don't we keep it right here for just a minute, Joe? And, you know, we look at the story of the game so far. Both teams really struggling to shoot.
They have, Mike. And we mentioned the Dolphins came into this game struggling from the field, but uncharacteristically, Stevens Institute only shooting 2 of 10 from the field in this first half as well. The Dolphins 1 of 8 from the field in this first half. So it's really been a slow start for both of these teams. Offensively, turnovers have been a problem. On top of that, 6 for the Dolphins and 5 for the Ducks here in this first half. And much like the last game we covered, the women's basketball game between the Dolphins and the Seahawks of Wagner College, both teams turning the ball over and shooting poorly to start the game.
So the Dolphins trailing here by a score of 5-2. They'll inbound the basketball with 14:02 remaining here in the first half and 14 seconds to shoot. Bryant looking to inbound the basketball. He gets it up over to Taylor. Now it's Savage with the basketball. Savage feeding it up over to Spencer. 7 to shoot. He drives down the lane and lays it up and in. Nice move by the sophomore Jade Spencer. Brings the Dolphins to within 1.
Very strong move to the rim there by Spencer, challenging DiPietrantonio.
The ball fed out over now to Zignorski, but he's going to get called for the travel, so that'll be the 6th turnover for the Ducks, and the Dolphins will inbound the basketball, trailing by 1, 5-4.
And the Dolphins have certainly gotten it done at the defensive end thus far here in this first half, limiting a prolific Stevens Institute offense to only 5 points over 6.5 minutes into the game. We'll see if the Dolphins can keep up this defensive intensity.
So it's Taylor now with the basketball for CSI as he brings the ball up across the midcourt line, guarded by Zignorski. Now it's Bryant with the basketball. Beautiful bounce pass inside to Taylor. His layup is up, no good. Nice play by the Dolphins, Joe, but Taylor couldn't finish.
And Taylor wanted the foul call, will not get it. He gets back on defense, however.
Now the ball is going to be fed over to Zignorski. His open three-pointer is up, no good, and Bryant grabs the rebound for the Dolphins. Bryant bringing the ball up across the midcourt line. Bryant, jumper from just inside the three-point line is up, no good, and the rebound is going to be grabbed now by Zignorski. Zignorski working the ball across the floor, driving the ball inside and laying it up and in is going to be Walsh for the Ducks. Walsh with 5 of the 7 Ducks points here, and they lead 7-4.
And the Ducks have spent a lot of time around the rim. In many cases, they have not converted. That's not the case there, as they finally put 2 more up on the scoreboard.
Kopech with the basketball now. Now he feeds the ball out over to Bryant. Bryant now kicking the ball out to Kopech. But I think they're going to rule he was on the end line, Joe, or the baseline when he caught it, and it'll be a turnover for the Dolphins.
And the turnovers continue for both teams here as we get a look at that another look at that move to the basket by Jade Spencer. A strong move to the rim, challenging Alec DiPietrantonio down underneath, and a strong take there by Spencer for the Dolphins.
You know, Joe, when you look at the 2 Dolphin baskets so far, the jam and the layup, and you see the talent, and Dolphins just have to figure out a way to unlock those kind of opportunities on more of their possessions. Going inside with the basketball and missing the layup is going to be flagged, but he's going to get called for the offensive foul.
And chalk it up as another turnover for the Dolphins. That is number 8, the offensive foul, as you mentioned, charged to Stephen Flagg. And I thought I heard the public address announcer just call that as someone's 3rd foul. I didn't catch which player that may have been, but it isn't a 3rd foul either way, so it is Ducks basketball.
Yeah, third team foul for the Dolphins as it's going to be brought inside now by Zignorski. He works it out in the corner, but we're going to get a traveling violation on Stevens as they turn the ball over. So it'll be Dolphin ball, trailing by 3, 7-4, as we have an opportunity to look at that offensive foul by Stephen Flagg as was ruled that he went into the Stevens player and picked up the offensive foul. Latunji now feeding the ball up over in the corner. He looks to work his way inside, and that shot is knocked away beautifully that time by DiPerce Antonio. And if you think you butchered that name, Joe, wait till I get my hands on it.
DiPietrantonio. When I'm able to prepare myself to pronounce it, it flows, but when I saw that for the first time, I undoubtedly stumbled over it. So we'll struggle with that one for at least the remainder of the first half, and I don't think anybody will blame us for it.
So it'll be Flagg to inbound the basketball now for the Dolphins. We have 11:45 remaining here in this first half. You see the score on your scoreboard, 7-4. 2 baskets for the Dolphins, 3 baskets for the Ducks have been all the scoring so far here in this first half. Flagg inbounds the basketball now to Stevens. Stevens using the Spencer pick as it gets worked into the corner, but once again, Dolphins not noticing their spot on the floor, Joe, standing on the baseline when catching the basketball.
And those are just unforced, unnecessary mistakes standing on the baseline when you receive a pass. The Dolphins need to avoid those kind of mistakes. They're right in this game, but mistakes like that could take them out of it quickly.
So now it's the Ducks with the basketball with 17 seconds to shoot as the ball gets worked onto the near side, and pulling up with the three-point attempt. That time is Cosgrove. It's no good, but the Ducks grab the rebound, but Latunji comes up with the steal. Latunji driving his way down the lane. His shot is up, no good, and the ball's going to go out of bounds and remain Dolphin basketball. So that time Latunji taking the ball to the basket, and the Dolphins able to maintain possession as the ball knocked out of bounds.
And the Dolphins haven't been shy about attacking the basket, but they've met a lot of resistance down there from a much larger Ducks team that already has 3 blocks so far here in this first half. And it really has been Adiola Latunji who's done the majority of the attacking of the rim, and right there he's rejected inside.
So Kopech checks back into the game. Or I should say Rossiter checks into the game for Kopech, and now it's Savage with the basketball for the Dolphins. Latunji, jumper from the top of the key is up, no good. And a teams fight for the rebound, and the Ducks come away with the basketball, and now it's going to be Cosgrove bringing it across the midcourt line. He gets it over to Zignorski. Back up over to Cosgrove in the baseline for that three-pointer. It's no good. Flagg grabs the rebound, and here comes Flagg. Flagg looking to take the ball from coast to coast and lays it up and in. Coast-to-coast move by Stephen Flagg brings the Dolphins to within 1. Cosgrove hands the ball off to Walsh. Walsh now over to Florio. Florio working his way in. His run-hander is up, no good. Fight for the rebound, and it's going to be played by the Ducks. The putback is no good, and now Savage grabs the rebound and feeds it up to Rossiter. Bounce pass over to Latunji, and his shot is knocked away, and now the Ducks have the basketball. Walsh looks to feed the ball inside, as that time using the body is DiPerce Antonio to lay it up and in. Alex, first basket of the game, and the Ducks lead by 3 once again, 9-6. Savage with the basketball. Savage out beyond the three-point line. Now Spencer. Spencer's jumper from the top of the key is no good. Ducks grab the rebound and look to run. Florio with the basketball. Cosgrove now. Out up behind the three-point line, it's Zignorski. Zignorski looking to drive his way inside. A lot of contact. That ball is knocked out of bounds. I thought it might have gone off Zignorski's leg, but instead it'll be Duck basketball with 18 to shoot.
And I think there's a pair of areas of concern for the Dolphins right now. The Ducks have been getting inside at will, simply not converting. That's not something that CSI can expect to continue throughout the entirety of this game. And at the other end for the Dolphins right now, a lot of their shots from outside the painted area simply haven't been close. Some of them not high-quality shots. After getting some good open looks earlier in this first half, they haven't gotten those same good open looks over the last 5 minutes or so.
So now it's Spencer Cook getting the basketball up over to Umari, and driving down the lane and having his shot rejected that time is going to be Cosgrove. And here comes Flagg once again. He drives down the lane. The shot's going to be blocked. And here comes Stevens looking to run. as Umari lays it up and in, and we're going to have a timeout on the floor. It's going to be a 30-second timeout taken by the Dolphins. So let's keep it right here, Joe, as the Ducks open up their biggest lead of the game. It's 5 points, 11-6.
And I don't think there's any doubt that Dolphins head coach TJ Tibbs didn't like what he saw there. The Dolphins forcing a shot inside as Stephen Flagg was surrounded by Ducks defenders, and the Dolphins again have really met a ton of resistance down in and around the painted area and have been able to get good shots up from that range. And then at the other end, a wide open layup as Eden Brocic was the only Dolphins player attempting to get back defensively. So if you're the Dolphins, those are two areas right now you need to clean up. And I see, Mike, you have an update for the women's basketball game as well.
Yes, the women lead by a score of 56-48, 4 minutes and 38 seconds remaining here in the fourth quarter at Hunter College. Christina Passatoro leading all scorers with 19 points for the Dolphins, 12 points for Samantha Flecker, and 11 for Callie, as the Dolphins try to hold on to a game, Joe, that they opened up a big lead on, but NYU storming back, trailing by just 8 with 4 minutes and 38 seconds to go.
And we'll certainly keep you updated on that game for the remainder of this first half and during halftime.
Taylor with the basketball now for the Dolphins. Taylor out by the three-point line, and we're going to have a whistle, and it looks like an offensive foul called on the Dolphins. And that's going to be on Taylor. And looking at the shooting here in the first half, Joe, Dolphins really struggling.
It's been a rough first half from the field for both teams. Also a rough first half in the turnover department. Again, very much like the last game we covered between the Seahawks of Wagner College and the CSI Dolphins women's team. This game resembles that quite a bit.
Yeah, Dolphins just 3 of 18 from the field here, so Dolphins still working on getting their offense in order, as that open three-pointer is going to be up and no good. But that time, Brocic and Rossiter came together, Joe, but neither player could grab the basketball. It goes out of bounds, so it'll remain Duck basketball now with 14 seconds to shoot and 8:41 remaining here in the first half. Ducks with the basketball now as they work the ball up over to Spencer Cook, and now it's going to be a traveling violation that time on Connor Barron as he gets called for the travel, and the Ducks turn the ball over, Joe, once again.
And I believe that is turnover number 10 for Stevens Institute in this game. And just one other thing I wanted to mention quickly. I mentioned the size disparity between these two teams, but the rebounding margin simply hasn't been there in favor of Stevens Institute. Only a 2-rebound advantage so far in this game for the Ducks. So the Dolphins have done a good job on the glass.
And we should mention that Rigo Destime has also checked into the game for the Dolphins as Savage misses that three-pointer. And here come the Ducks with the basketball and a 5-point lead. Cosgrove looks to feed the ball inside, and that time missing the open layup, but able to grab his rebound and draw the foul is going to be D.P. Antonio, Joe, for the Ducks. So that time he missed the first shot, grabbed his rebound, couldn't finish, but drew the foul. And that foul is going to be on Brocic, and that'll be his first.
Well, I mentioned the Dolphins had done a good job on the glass thus far, only a 4-rebounding deficit for the Dolphins, or 4-rebound deficit for them right now on the glass, but right there allowing a pair of offensive rebounds, and Thomas Cook was able to grab those 2 rebounds on his own missed shots to get to the free throw line. However, he does miss the first of those 2 free throws, but this goes back to something else that I mentioned just before. Stevens Institute has done a good job getting looks from right around the rim. They simply haven't converted them, and if the Dolphins continue to allow shots from that deep in the painted area, they'll eventually begin to pay for it.
So one more free throw upcoming here for Alec as his second free throw is up and in, so he splits the pair, and the Ducks open up their biggest lead, 12-6 here, with 7:55 remaining here in the first half. Destine with the basketball, a beautiful layup, and that's up and in, and a nice move by the freshman, just checking into the game and gets his first basket of the game.
Great move there by Rigo Destime to avoid contact, something Dolphins drivers haven't been able to do.
Spencer Cook misses the open 3, and we're going to have a whistle and a foul. Boy, and it looked that time like Stevens was heading down the floor, figuring the foul was on them. Instead, it's going to be on the Dolphins, as that's going to be Destime's first personal and the 16th foul for the Dolphins, so the Ducks will get to inbound once again. Ball comes over to Cook. Cook guarded by Brocic. Feeds it inside to Thomas Cook. Into the corner for the open three-pointer. That's up no good. Ducks able to grab the rebound. The putback is no good, and Rossiter grabs the rebound. Ducks really struggling from the three-point line, is driving inside that time. and having his shot knocked away is Destim, and here come the Ducks looking to run. Barron kicking the ball out now to Omari. His layup is up, no good, but Omari grabs his own rebound, feeds it out now. Now the open three-pointer by Spencer Cook is up, no good, but there to grab the rebound and lay it up and in and draw the foul is Thomas Cook, and that's going to be a basket for the Ducks as they continue to open up their lead.
And soon after I mentioned the job the Dolphins have done rebounding the basketball, it seems now that the Ducks heard what I said and have made sure to get on the offensive glass now. Every time they put up a shot up around the rim, they found a way to grab that offensive rebound and get a second chance opportunity. So if you're the Dolphins, you really need to try to do a better job boxing out here. It's been on the back of offensive rebounds that the Ducks have extended their lead to 6 points here. And I think the way the Dolphins have shot the ball from the field thus far in this first half, they're fortunate to only find themselves down 6 points.
And Thomas Cook, an 85% free throw shooter, completes the three-point play, and that's going to open up the Ducks' lead to their biggest of the game, 15-8, with 6:55 remaining here in the first half. Dolphins working the ball around the perimeter. The baseline jumper from Rossiter is good. 15-10 to score, Joe, and one of the things we saw last year with this Dolphin team was that they were really a different offensive team when Rossiter was able to score offensively.
And they'll need him to get going here in this game. There's a nice rebound there by Savage, and a foul is called against the Ducks, and that's exactly the intensity the Dolphins would like to see on the defensive glass as Savage got up there and aggressively grabbed that rebound out of the air. And with that foul call, it will be Dolphins basketball.
So Winnick will draw the foul. That's going to be the 17th foul, Joe, and that's going to mean a 1-and-1 opportunity now for Raymond Savage. Savage 3 for 4 from the line so far this year, so he's shooting 75%. A couple of big free throws coming up here for the Dolphins, Joe, and Dolphins shooting just 60% from the free throw line.
And that free throw right there will add to that percentage, but successful basketball teams, more often than not, get it done from the free throw line. And of course, head coach T.J. Tibbs would like to see his team improve upon that free throw shooting percentage as Raymond Savage now moves to 5 of 6 from the line this season.
So a mini 4-0 run for the Dolphins cuts the Duck lead down to 3 with 6 minutes and 24 seconds remaining here in the first half, and the Ducks have the basketball. Winnick is going to draw the foul on the outside. Is that time Bryant's going to get called for the personal, and now it'll be Stevens' turn, Joe, to go shoot a 1-and-1.
And the Dolphins now will look to avoid these fouls late in this first half. You don't want to give away points from the free throw line in a first half where points have really been precious thus far. Again, 15-12, our score with 6:18 to go in the first half. And with how poorly these two teams have shot the basketball from the field, you do not want to be giving away points at the charity stripe. And the Dolphins will hope to avoid seeing 2 points go on the scoreboard in favor of the Ducks. Here at the line shooting 2 will be Jason Winnick.
Winnick, a 50% shooter. He's 5 of 10 from the free throw line this year and gets a nice bounce and able to hit the first. 16-12 the score. One more free throw upcoming here for Winnick. And that free throw is up and in, so he hits them both. And the Ducks open their lead back up to 5, 17-12. Destim with the basketball now. Bounce pass now goes up over to Latunji. Latunji driving his way inside is running one-hander is up, no good. And the rebound grab by the Ducks as that's Winnick. Winnick looking to drive inside. A nice play by the Dolphins to knock it away. But now it's going to come out to Coffey. His open three-pointer is up, no good. And here comes Destim. Over to Rossiter. Rossiter driving his way inside and laying it up and in. 4 points now for Rossiter as the Dolphins cut the lead down to 3 once again. Winnick running one-hander is up, no good. Ducks grab the rebound. Now it's Spencer Cook. Cook feeding it inside to Winnick. Winnick a nice feed inside to Thomas Cook, who's going to draw the foul.
Great ball movement there from the Ducks, moving the ball not only around the perimeter, but around the interior as well. Drawing the double team inside was one player, then quickly dished it off to another cutting back door. That was Thomas Cook making that cut toward the rim, and he'll earn himself a pair of free throws after he draws the foul.
So Cook to the line now as he gets ready for his first free throw, and that's up, no good. We have an opportunity to take a look at the replay of that last Rossiter basket as Robert picks up his second basket of the game. He has 4 points for the Dolphins to draw them within 3 as Cook now takes his second free throw. And that's up and in. He splits the pair, and the Ducks lead by 4, 18-14. Dolphins with the basketball now as it's Destine. Brings the ball across the midcourt line, bounce pass over to Rossiter. Rossiter at the top of the key. He takes the open jumper. It's up no good. Ducks grab the rebound, and they're looking to move the ball quickly as it's Umari. Umari feeding it back to Mosca. Mosca working the ball up inside. Nice defensive play by the Dolphins to knock the ball away, and here comes Lavature. Lavature's floater in the lane is good. So Rudy Lavature gets his first basket of the game, another freshman for the Dolphins, and now a nice defensive play that time by Destine, but unable to maintain possession. So it will be Duck basketball. A couple of exciting plays by the freshman.
And if you're the Dolphins, that's exactly what you're looking for. The rejection by Rossiter leads to an opportunity in transition for an easy layup, and then right there, Destine nearly stealing the basketball and getting another open opportunity in transition. It all begins here at this end of the floor for the Dolphins as they look to run.
So now Winnick getting the ball up over to Mosca. Mosca tried to drive inside. His pass is going to be knocked away, but it's going to be batted out of bounds by the Dolphins. It'll remain Duck basketball with 13 seconds to shoot.
And Robert Rossiter's done a good job on the interior. He's been playing at the center of that defense for the Dolphins. You see him there with the pass deflection. Previously had the rejection on the shot attempt inside. So they've gotten some good play down low defensively from Robert Rossiter, who also knocked down his last field goal attempt from the field.
So the Ducks inbound the basketball and able to drive all the way down the lane is Umari. So he took that inbounds pass, Joe, and took it right to the basket as he's able to get through the Dolphin interior defense.
And that was just too easy for the Ducks. The Dolphins can't let those up.
Pulling up and taking the jumper that time is Destine. It's no good, and the Ducks with the rebound, leading by 4. The ball fed up over to Umari. He's hit on the outside, draws the foul, and that will lead to free throws once again for the Ducks as the Dolphins pick up their 10th foul here in the first half, so that will send Umari to the line to shoot 2.
And if you're the Dolphins, you're facing a bit of a dilemma here. Whenever you've driven to the basket, they've faced a ton of resistance and have seen a lot of shots blocked. But when they've looked to take some three-pointers and knock down some mid-range jump shots, those shots simply haven't been falling. So you need to look maybe to drive to the basket a bit more, or perhaps start knocking down your shots as you get a look at that attack of the rim there from the Ducks.
And like you mentioned, Joe, way too easy. The player receiving the pass like that shouldn't be able to take it right to the basket as the second free throw is missed, and now it's Kopech with the basketball for the Dolphins. Kopech looking to drive his way inside and lay it up and in. Nice move by Kopech for the Dolphins.
That's the strong finish the Dolphins have been looking for inside, and it's Christian Kopech who delivers it.
Dolphins now cut the lead down to 3 as that jumper taken and missed that time by Mosca, and now it's the Dolphins with the basketball. Destine, now Kopech at the three-point line. Kopech nearly loses possession, and it's going to be off Destine, so the Dolphins will turn the ball over once again, Joe, and that's something that head coach T.J. Tibbs is certainly going to want to improve on at halftime.
Absolutely, and that's turnover number 12 for the Dolphins right there, and it seemed like they'd begun to see some momentum here late in this first half. They've been forcing some turnovers, trying to get out in transition, even off of defensive rebounds, not just those turnovers, and right there, off of the defensive rebound, they look to push it. Unfortunately, it results in a turnover of their own.
So now it's the Ducks with the basketball now as they able to kick the ball down the baseline. Now they kick it out. The open three-point jumper by Zignorski is up and no good, and the rebound controlled now by the Dolphins. Latunji looking to drive his way inside but misses the layup. Nice move that time, but he couldn't finish as it's the Ducks now with the basketball and a three-point lead, and the open three-pointer that time by Zignorski is good.
That was a much-needed three-pointer for the Ducks, who really haven't shot the ball well from the field overall. And from three-point range, that shot brings them to 2 of 13. So not a great shooting performance in the first half for Stevens.
As Rossiter misses the open jumper, and that could be a big swing in the game, as now taking the ball and driving it down the lane and laying the ball up and in is Umari. And, Joe, in a game that was just a couple of point spread just a minute ago, all of a sudden, the Ducks open up their biggest lead of the game, 8 points.
And on the back of a quick 5-0 run, a wide-open three-pointer And as Rossiter looks for a three-pointer of his own, doesn't get it, but the rebound goes to the Dolphins. A pair of quick baskets for the Ducks, spurring them to an 8-point lead. Dolphins look to answer.
Now Rossiter, no hesitation, takes the three once again, but he's gone cold here at the end of the first half, and the Ducks look to take advantage. The open three-pointer now put up by Florio is good, and the Ducks open up the lead to double digits now, 29-18.
And the Dolphins have turned it over once again, Mike.
Yeah, and that's the struggles the Dolphins have had this year, and we're going to have a layup now put in the basket. I believe that's going to be Umari, and we're going to have a timeout here, and 2:03 to go, and all of a sudden, Joe, it's a 31-18 game, in a game where the Dolphins had an opportunity to cut it to one. Latunji could not hit the layup, and the Ducks came back, hit the open three-pointer, and haven't looked back.
And that was a really rough stretch for the Dolphins. A quick 10-0 run there by the Ducks, and the Dolphins turning it over, failing to knock down some okay looks, not great open shots in the flow of the offense. Really, Rossiter put up a pair of quick three-pointers early in the shot clock. I'm sure those aren't the looks that head coach T.J. Tibbs wanted to see, but not bad looks as he had some space to shoot those and is a player who can certainly knock those shots down. But if you're the Dolphins, you need to avoid the lazy turnovers, as we just saw, leading to an easy basket in the other direction. And now the Dolphins will look to answer this run and hopefully see some momentum back here at the end of the first half. You don't want to go into the second half playing this way.
Yeah, and Joe, the way the Dolphins have been struggling to score, they really need to tighten up defensively and try to get some good looks, as now the open three-pointer put up by Latunji is no good. A nice job by Bracic to grab the rebound, but that shot's going to be blocked away, and Latunji able to grab the rebound, drive his way inside, but again, getting himself a little out of control, not getting a good shot, and now it's going to be Cosgrove with the basketball. Cosgrove working the ball up over to Walsh. The feed inside, and the layup is up and in, and an easy layup that time by DiPietro Antonio, and the Ducks continue to expand on their lead. It's now 15.
As the Dolphins fail to knock down yet another three-pointer. That a long three from Edin Bracic. And again, the dilemma you face if you're the Dolphins, you go inside and face a ton of resistance. We get another look at Stevens Institute getting it done from three-point range, something the Dolphins have failed to do. But again, the dilemma for the Dolphins is you've scored almost all of your points inside, but have faced a ton of resistance each and every time you've attacked the rim, and those jump shots that they've taken simply aren't going down.
Yeah, and the Dolphins had trailed just by a couple of points just a couple of minutes ago, and the lead continues to grow for Stevens as the Dolphins struggle to score, as now it's Savage with the basketball. Savage getting the ball out over to Bracic. Now it's Rossiter. Rossiter, a nice move to work his way inside and lay the ball up and in, and that breaks a long scoring drought, Joe, for the Dolphins.
And that was much needed for the Dolphins. Rossiter using the head fake to free himself up on the baseline.
As that layup is going to be up and no good, and now Savage is very fortunate to get called for the foul. I thought for sure he was going to get called for the double dribble, Joe, on the play.
And that's the call the Ducks wanted. And if you're the Ducks, you don't want to commit a foul in that situation. Not saying that it was or wasn't the right call, but giving the Dolphins points from the free throw line, certainly not what you want to do when you find yourselves on such a run as they are right now. I believe the run is now 12-2 following that last Dolphins basket. So Savage will have an opportunity from the free throw line as he knocks down the first and will get a second free throw, looking to pull the Dolphins back to within 11.
So Savage is 3 for 3 from the free throw line here for the Dolphins in the first half. And, Joe, you look at the shooting for the Dolphins, they've yet to hit a three-point shot here this afternoon, and their shooting from the field is just 9 of 37, and it's tough offensively, Joe, when you're struggling with those kind of numbers.
And I mentioned it in the pregame. The Dolphins needed to shoot better from the field and hold the opposition to a lesser field goal percentage. They've done the second. Right now, the Ducks shooting just shy of 29%, but you said it, Mike. The Dolphins themselves shooting 9 of 37. That's just a shade over 24%. That simply won't get it done, especially with all the turnovers they've committed.
So Savage hits the free throws for the Dolphins, and they cut the lead down to 11. Let's see if the Ducks hold here for the last shot. Cosgrove working the ball in the corner. Now it's Umari with the basketball now for the Ducks with 11 seconds to shoot. Umari looking to use the Cook pick. Umari looking to drive his way inside. Umari is able to float it up and in. So Umari lays it up and in, and the Dolphins have the ball stolen away on the inbounds pass, and Spencer is going to get called for the foul at the buzzer, which is going to lead to a couple of free throws here. Not a good ending, Joe, for the first half for the CSI Dolphins.
And if that foul did occur before the clock expired, that is a disastrous finish to the first half, and it looks like there will be 2 free throws upcoming here for Chris Cosgrove, and that is just an awful sequence there for the Dolphins to wrap up that first half, as the entire CSI bench is headed for the locker room. But I think these free throws have indeed been awarded, so this first half not yet over, and really just a horrific end to the first half for the Dolphins. This was a close game, but I did mention how fortunate the Dolphins were to be so close in this game, shooting so poorly from the field and committing the turnovers that they had committed against a team that typically shoots very well from the field. And fortunately for the Dolphins, the Ducks haven't shot as well as they're accustomed to, or else this deficit could be much larger.
Yeah, you know, the Dolphins really struggling with their shooting here in the first half, and Dolphins fortunate that both of those free throws are missed. So we'll go into halftime with the Dolphins trailing by a score of 35-22. And, you know, Joe, it's like we mentioned, the Dolphins just struggling with their shooting and just turning the ball over too much, shooting just 24% from the field, and that goes along with their turnovers in the first half. And we're going to be joined quickly by head coach T.J. Tibbs. Coach, a tough end to the first half for the Dolphins as Stevens was able to hit a couple of shots and you turn the ball over toward the end of the half.
Yeah, you got to give Stevens credit. They're playing really hard. A couple of self-inflicted wounds at the end that we like to have back. But, you know, that one run really killed us. We're not making any shots. We're not moving the ball. We're playing tremendously selfish. We're playing really selfishly. So, you know, hopefully we go in the locker room, we come back out, we look like a better team.
What do you need to do in the second half to get a little bit more production offensively?
Share the ball, trust each other, get rid of the ball early. We're going for the highlight moves. I know these guys are excited. It's their first home game. A lot of them their first college real experience in front of their friends and family, but they got to trust their teammates.
Thanks for joining us, Coach.
Thanks for having me.
That's head coach T.J. Tibbs. Joe, nice enough to join us at halftime. The Dolphins trailing by 13 in a game, Joe, that they trailed just by a couple of points as we were in the closing stages of the first half. But a couple of turnovers, a couple of missed shots by the Dolphins, and Stevens able to go in with a 13-point halftime lead.
I mentioned it in the pregame, Mike, and so did you. Stevens Institute shoots the ball very well from the field typically, and the Dolphins held them to a mere, I believe it was about 30% from the field in that first half. I have the exact number right here. It was indeed 30% from the field for the Ducks. So the Dolphins' defensive intensity was there. They also forced a lot of turnovers in that first half. However, they committed many turnovers of their own as well and shot very poorly from the field once again. And it seems that poor shooting from the field has been a recurring theme for the Dolphins so far early in this season, and that's a trend that they certainly need to reverse here in the second half of this game if they want to come away with a victory, but a trend also that they need to reverse for this entire season as well if they want to be successful in 2017, 2018.
And Joe, we should mention the College of Staten Island was able to hold on and defeat NYU by a final score of 65-62. 3 players in double figures for the Dolphins in that one. Christina Passatoro led the Dolphins in scoring with 19, 14 points for Jackie Callie, and 12 points for Samantha Flecker, Joe. So a really nice win for the women's team on a neutral court. And, you know, they've been playing very well this year so far in 2017, Joe.
They absolutely have. I've seen a pair of games that were played here at the Sports and Rec Center. We covered both of those games here on CSI Sportsnet, the first of which was a huge Dolphins win. Not much to say about that one other than the Dolphins simply dominated in all aspects of the game. But then we saw that very competitive game against the Seahawks of Wagner College, a game in which the Dolphins didn't play their best basketball but played well enough to possess a lead deep into the fourth quarter of that game. And after shooting very well from the free throw line for about 3.5 quarters, the Dolphins simply didn't knock down their free throws late in that fourth quarter, and that's what really did them in and gave the Seahawks an opportunity to come back and win that game. And I think the size advantage for the Seahawks in that game played a big role down the stretch as well, but the effort of the Dolphins certainly could go unquestioned in that game. They played a very strong game. Certainly not their best, but against Division I competition, you have to like what you saw from CSI in that game, and I'm sure head coach for the Dolphins, Mike Shanahan, loves what he's seen from his team thus far here in this season.
So the CSI women's Dolphin team ups their record to 4-1. They'll be in action this Saturday afternoon against John Jay in their opening conference game, and the men will open their conference season as well against John Jay. So we're at halftime here. The College of Staten Island trailing Stevens Institute of Technology by a score of 35-22. We're going to step aside, take a break for a couple of minutes, and then we'll be back to bring you first half statistics and get you ready for the start of the second half as you're watching exclusive men's 2017 home open basketball coverage right here on your voice of CSI Sports, CSI Sportsnet, CSIDolphins.com.
Wow, these are really good.
You act surprised. Practice makes perfect.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you.
You know what, guys? There's a lot of tree branches and dry brush over here. We should probably move the bonfire over there.
I'm guessing Smokey liked that idea.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for information on how to provide even better care for the person who wants to care of you.
Don't worry, 74 people were picked before me in the NFL draft.
To fight childhood obesity, United Way and the NFL are helping kids play at least 60 minutes a day.
Okay, time for the team obstacle course.
What this place needs is more healthy kids. To get involved or donate, go to unitedway.org/play60.
Now I get it.
When I was 6, my days were spent playing basketball. When I was 6, my dream was to make it to the NBA. When I was 6, my mom had a stroke.
I'm Paul George, and I want you to spot a stroke fast.
F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. S, speech difficulty. T, time to call 911.
Protect the ones you love.
Spot a stroke fast.
Most party fouls are pretty dumb. But if you decide to drink and drive underage, you could lose your license and your freedom. Underage drinking and driving. The ultimate party foul.
This is the story of a boy who was very sensitive to lights and sounds. So he built secret hiding places where nothing could get in. The boy didn't like looking people in the eye. It made him feel uncomfortable. One day, he found out he had something called autism. His family got him help, and slowly, he learned how to live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
They said I have troll teeth.
That my voice sounded like a possessed baby doll.
That no one would ever love someone as stupid as me.
That I was fat, ugly.
Disgusting.
The effect of bullying is potent.
We will no longer be the silent majority. Now, when you see online bullying, there's something you can do about it.
We're gonna take action with the I.
I am a witness.
I am a witness.
I am a witness.
I am a witness.
I am a witness, and so are you.
They'll test you. Try to break your will. But however loud the loudness gets, however many cheese puffs may fly, you're the driver, the one in control. Stand firm. Just wait. And move only when you hear the click that says they're buckled in for the drive. Never give up till they buckle up.
Morning, Gary. We are GetSchooled.com. You want a college education, don't you? You know you do. Yeah, but I don't know where to start. That's why we're here. We're free, handsome. I think we're breathtaking. And here to guide you through every step of the way, starting with attendance. Gary, financial aid forms. Biology homework, G. I got this. Is that Bran? Colleges love extracurricular activities. Chess really isn't my thing. I got this. Doesn't matter. Go ahead. Picking a college, man. You and us. We go together like tacos and Tuesday.
And I love tacos.
Fire and ice.
Those don't really go together. Go to GetSchooled.com for more info.
We're back here at halftime where the College of Staten Island trails by a score of 35-32. And Joe, it was a back-and-forth game, and Stevens has really led the whole way. But the Dolphins were able to close to within a couple of points, but it was a great Stevens run at the end of the first half that gave them a 13-point lead. And, you know, while we have a couple of minutes here, we'll take a look at a couple of highlights, in this first half. And, you know, Joe, for the Dolphins, you see the offensive flashes, you see the ability, and here you see Latunji taking the ball to the basket and jamming it home, but you also saw Latunji struggle a little bit. That was his only basket in 11 shots in the first half.
And I think a big part of the reason why it was his only basket is the resistance the Dolphins faced around the rim. The Ducks did a great job protecting the rim in that first half. And though the Dolphins scored the majority of their points inside, they certainly did not come easy, and the Dolphins were, of course, held to only 24% shooting from the field. Is right there. You see, I believe there's a pair of offensive rebounds, and on the kick out, the Ducks get a wide-open three. So a single offensive rebound, and the wide-open three is missed before the second rebound is put back for the and one. So right there, it really personifies what the Ducks have done so far this season. They typically do move the ball very well and get high-quality threes. They also rebound the ball well. We saw that right there.
Yeah, and that was Thomas Cook grabbing the rebound and laying it up and in for 2 of his 5 points in the first half, and he was able to complete the three-point play. And, you know, then we mentioned, Joe, it was a big run at the end of the first half. Stevens up 26-18 before that big three-pointer, and then another layup to further open up the lead. And, you know, the Dolphins struggling defensively in those couple of sequences.
They did, and that was after a very strong start to the game defensively for the Dolphins. They forced a lot of turnovers in that first half, but at the same time, they committed many turnovers of their own. The Dolphins committed 13 while forcing 9, and I think the Ducks really cleaned up their play late in that first half, started to shoot the basketball much better from the field, really cleaned up the turnovers a bit, and around the rim, 7 blocks for the Ducks in that first half as well. The Dolphins simply haven't gotten much easy inside. Really the easiest of their attempts around the rim either came on the fast break, and I believe at the end of that first half, Robert Rossiter did a good job of using a head fake to get a wide open layup as well. But again, for the Dolphins, a ton of resistance inside, and that's the dilemma they face. They've scored most of their points in the paint, but they haven't come easily, and they simply haven't knocked down any jump shots to keep themselves in this game, and as a result, find themselves down 13 points.
Yeah, and, you know, Joe, you look at some of the stats for the Dolphins, only 9 of 37 from the field. That's just over 24%. 0 for 7 from the three-point line, and Christian Taylor, one of their leading scorers coming into today's game, 0 for 4 from the field. Adiola Latunji, one of their other leading scorers, just with that dunk that you saw in the halftime highlight package, but just 1 of 11 from the field. And the Dolphins are going to need a lot more offensive production from them in the second half, as well as Edin Bracic, who just was 0 for 1 from the field in his 10 minutes of play, and Robert Rossiter, who was 3 for 9, including 0 for 4 from the three-point line. So Dolphins looking for a lot of improvement from the field in the second half. And, we had head coach T.J. Tibbs on, and, he mentioned the word selfish a couple of times in describing the Dolphin offense in that first half.
And that's certainly a word you never want to hear if you're a fan of a team that your players are playing selfishly. But I think the remedy for the Dolphins here in the second half might be easier said than done, but the remedy itself is simple. They need to knock down some open jump shots, start getting some points from the mid-range area and behind the three-point arc. Also, they need to clean up the turnovers. The defensive effort was there, and the rebounding effort was there as well until later in that first half, where the Ducks really began to dominate the glass. But the Dolphins have to knock down some jump shots if they're going to get back in this game and stay there. They have to clean up the turnovers, and then they have to get the rebounding battle swayed back in their favor a bit. Earlier in that first half, they did a good job on the glass, as I mentioned. Later in that first half, it was all Ducks. And the one last thing I mentioned before is that the Dolphins have scored the majority of their points in the paint. 16 of their 22 points came inside, but if they're going to attack the rim, they may want to use that opportunity to perhaps kick the ball out and get some high-quality three-pointers or mid-range shots to go along with those layup attempts. Because as I've said many times already, the block number for the Ducks in that first half was 7, and their presence around the rim certainly a factor in limiting the Dolphins to only 24% shooting.
So the Ducks finish out the first half on a 14-4 run over the last 4 minutes and 12 seconds, and that's going to give them that 13-point lead going into the second half. And, Joe, it's no secret. It's very tough to win games when you're shooting 24%.
You're absolutely right, Mike. And if you can't knock down some more jump shots, perhaps continuing to force turnovers and getting out in transition may get the job done. That allows you to put points up on the scoreboard quickly and get the easiest of looks around the rim without much resistance. But late in that first half, the Ducks did clean up the turnovers. If the Dolphins can begin forcing some more of those turnovers yet again, perhaps they can get back in this game quickly.
So the Dolphins will go from right to left here in this second half as it's Taylor with the basketball. Taylor kicking it over to Bracic. Now it's Rossiter, the open three. That's no good. He's 0 for 5. Taylor grabs the rebound. That shot will be blocked, but it'll remain Dolphin basketball. So Rob's had a couple of good looks, Joe, but just not able to get the shots to go down.
And that's really the first half personified right there, as Rossiter had a pretty good look from three-point range, couldn't knock it down, and then off of the rebound, Christian Taylor is rejected around the rim.
As Savage puts up that three-pointer, that's no good. So the Dolphins miss a couple of three-pointers to start the second half, Joe. They're now 0 for 9 from the three-point line, and now they'll commit the loose ball foul in the backcourt.
And those misses drop the Dolphins now to 9 of 40 from the field. We've said it time and time again. They have to improve on that number, as they did limit the Ducks to 30% shooting in the first half. The Dolphins need to be better.
So now it's Zagorski with the basketball. He's able to feed it inside to Thomas Cook, who lays it up and in. So the Ducks with their first basket of the second half, and they open their lead up to 15, 37-22. Bryant with the basketball now for the Dolphins. Bryant feeding it up over to Rossiter. Rossiter dribbling the ball off his leg and loses possession as the Dolphins turn the ball over. Going to be fed up over to Florio. Florio's open three-pointer is up, no good, and we're going to have a whistle and a loose ball foul called once again on the Dolphins. So 2 quick personal fouls on the Dolphins here to start the second half, both on Rossiter, and he now has 3.
And a rough start for the Dolphins here in the second half. Another turnover and several missed shots already.
So the Ducks look to inbound the basketball, and we're going to have a whistle, and it's going to be a turnover on the Ducks. So it will be Dolphin basketball here as the Dolphins look to get on track offensively. They've given up the only 2 points so far here in the second half, and they trail 37-22. Bryant with the basketball now for the Dolphins. Bryant on the outside. Now the cross-court pass goes up over to Taylor. Taylor spinning inside. His shot's going to be blocked away, but he'll draw the foul. So that will send Taylor to the free throw line as he's looking for his first point of the game. As that foul is going to be on Thomas Cook. That'll be his first, team's first. and Christian Taylor will go to the free throw line to shoot 2.
And another way the Dolphins can chip into this 15-point lead is from the free throw line, as Christian Taylor knocks down the first of 2. Free throws undoubtedly could prove big for the Dolphins here if they can shoot an efficient percentage from the charity stripe.
Taylor shooting 50% from the line coming into the game, and he'll remain 50% as he hits 1 of 2, and the Dolphins now trail by 14. Zagorski with the basketball now. Zagorski now working the ball up over in the court, and now it's going to be kicked out to a wide-open three-point shot, that time taken by Florio. It's no good, and the Dolphins grab the rebound, and now it's Bryant. Bryant pulls up for the three-pointer, and that's no good, and the Ducks control the rebound, and they're looking to run. Umari with the basketball, working it out. The open three-pointer by Florio is good, so he missed the first three-pointer. He didn't miss the second, and the Ducks have their biggest lead of the game.
And we mentioned the Ducks beginning to turn it around late in that first half. It seems that has carried into the second half. The Dolphins yet to hit a three-pointer. The Ducks now up to 25% from beyond the arc.
As Rossiter drives down the lane, his shot is partially blocked, and the Ducks grab the rebound as the Dolphins unable to get their offense going. Walsh's shot is blocked away, and now it's Taylor with the basketball looking to run 2-on-2. Taylor drives down the lane and misses the layup, and we're going to have a whistle and a traveling violation called on Stevens. So the Dolphins will maintain possession, Joe, but the problem is they're still struggling from the field.
And we mentioned they needed to shoot the basketball much more efficiently here in the second half, and they certainly haven't gotten off to a good start in that department. They also needed to force some turnovers and continue their defensive intensity, but the Ducks have already put 5 up on the scoreboard early in the second half.
As Brocic misses that three-pointer, the Dolphins haven't hit a three-pointer so far here this afternoon. Bryant kicking the ball out to Savage. It's going to go off his hands out of bounds, and the Dolphins will turn the ball over once again. Dolphins being outscored 5-1 here in the first half, in the second half, I should say, and they trail by their biggest margin of the game. It's 17, 40-23. Nice defensive play by Brocic to come away with the steal. Now it's Bryant over to Stavage. Stavage probably got away with a travel on the play, but misses the shot. And here come the Ducks looking to run 3-on-1. They feed the ball inside to Walsh. He misses the layup, but draws the foul. That time the Dolphins not balanced defensively, Joe. It leads to a 3-on-1 break and a couple of free throws now for the Ducks as Dylan Walsh will go to the free throw line as Brocic will pick up his second foul.
And the struggles continue for the Dolphins from the field as their field goal percentage has now plummeted to under 20%, and that is really unprecedented. You don't often see numbers like that in the second half of a game. As you get a look at the free throw shooting for both teams, the Ducks now beginning to frequent the line a bit more often than the Dolphins have. CSI 5 of 6 from the stripe, while the Ducks look to improve upon their 6 of 11 so far here in this game. And at the line is Dylan Walsh, as you mentioned, who drew the foul. And we have a stoppage here for a moment as we're starting to hear some chants from the crowd.
Yeah, and you know, Joe, you look at the way that the Dolphins are coming out and playing here in the second half, and, you know, they struggled to score in the first half, and, you know, they've struggled that much more here in the second half. Just 1 point, no baskets from the field through over just 3 minutes.
And this struggle really hasn't been characteristic of only the second half, but the entire game for the Dolphins. They simply haven't been able to knock down shots outside the paint. I can't recall more than a shot or two that they scored outside of the painted area. They have 5 points from the free throw line, and I believe it was 16 from in the paint in that first half. So for the Dolphins, I'm not even sure they scored any points from outside of the painted area or away from the free throw line in half number one. I could be wrong on that. And if they did knock down a shot outside of the painted area, it was only 1.
And, you know, Joe, the Ducks officially credited with 8 blocks here so far through the second half. It seems like they've gotten their hands on more balls than that.
They have, and just about every shot attempt for the Dolphins in this game, not only in the paint, hasn't come very easily, but especially those in the paint. As you mentioned, the block number, the Dolphins just haven't been able to get up quality shots inside. They've been stifled just about every time they've gone up in the painted area, with the exception of the opportunities that they've had in transition, but those have been few and far between, as the Ducks have really cleaned up the turnovers here really late in that first half and now early in the second half.
And the Ducks just 6 of 12 from the free throw line, helping to keep this game manageable, Joe, though it's slipping away from the Dolphins pretty quickly.
It has slipped away from the Dolphins quickly, and at the end of that first half, this was a close game. The score was 21-18. I don't believe there were more than 4 or 5 minutes left in half number one at that point before the Ducks really went on a huge run, and that was the score with 4:12 to go in that first half. 21-18 our score with just over 4 minutes to go in the first half. Now just over 3 minutes into the second half, our score 41-23, a 23-5 run, or I should say a 20-5 run for the Ducks coming out of that 4:12 mark in the first half. It looks like they're sending out someone to clean up a wet spot on the floor. So that's the delay here with 16:55 to go in the second half, and the Dolphins certainly could use a stoppage in the action here.
Yeah.
Right now it's all Ducks.
Yeah, Joe, just 5 points for the Dolphins in the last 7 minutes and 17 seconds of play. And the Ducks have been able to get much more efficient offensively as well, Joe, because they struggled to score most of the game. But with about 4 minutes or so left in the first half, they've really found their rhythm offensively.
They have, and they're playing much more like we're accustomed to seeing them play. The Dolphins absolutely have to step it up here, and hopefully for them it begins now.
So it's Savage with the basketball. Savage over to Kopech. Kopech's long three-pointer is no good as the Dolphins now 0 for 11 from the three-point line. Florio with the basketball. He kicks the ball out into the corner. Ducks looking to drive the baseline. Now they kick the ball out over to Zignorski. Zignorski works in the ball in the corner. The open three-pointer is up. No good. The ball's going to go off the hands of Walsh and out of bounds, so it'll be Dolphin basketball. So the Dolphins inbound the basketball here, as it's Taylor with the basketball for the Dolphins. Christian with just 1 point here tonight, that in the second half from the free throw line. Savage with the basketball. Savage, a beautiful bounce pass inside, and the layup is up and in as Latunji gets the first basket of the second half for the Dolphins.
And they'd love to see more opportunities like that. A great pass from Savage to Latunji, getting the Dolphins an easy look inside.
His second basket of the game, he has 4. As the Ducks now look to pound the ball inside as they get the ball into Krantz, and he's able to lay the ball up and put it in. 44-25, 19-point lead for the Ducks as Taylor drives inside, loses possession, and here come the Ducks with the basketball. Walsh looking to drive inside. His layup is up. No good. Kopech grabs the basketball, but his breakout pass is stolen away, and we're going to have a whistle and a blocking foul called on Savage. So Dolphins able to grab the rebound, but they turn the ball over and then commit the blocking foul.
And turnovers continue to be an issue for the Dolphins here in this game, and that's been something that we've said from the start of this game all the way through this point now with 15:22 to go in the second half. We mentioned the Ducks came out of the first half with 9 turnovers. They've already committed 3 here in the second half, but the Dolphins now have seen their turnover total balloon from, I believe it was 12 at the end of half number 1 all the way up to 17, and that's just 5 minutes into half number 2. As right now the Ducks will have an opportunity to extend their lead to 20 points.
Yeah, and you know, it's only the poor free throw shooting from Stevens, Joe, that has kept this game within 25 points.
And another stat I look at here that's unbelievable is that the amount of turnovers in this game, there's only been a combined 10 points off of turnovers, 7 for the Ducks, only 3 for the Dolphins. So Stevens hasn't made the most of those turnovers the Dolphins have committed, and the Dolphins certainly haven't capitalized on the Ducks' turnovers. Both teams not really shooting well from the field overall. The Ducks have improved that number. The Dolphins have not.
Yeah, and I believe the Ducks have missed their last 4 free throws as it's Latunji with the basketball as the Dolphins trying to find a way to get on the board. Latunji working the ball in the corner now to Taylor. Taylor back to Latunji. Latunji pulls up and now kicks the ball out over to Kopech. Kopech trying to drive inside. Now it's Spencer. Good ball movement by the Dolphins, and they feed it to Lavature, whose three-pointer is up and in. First three-pointer of the night, Joe, for the Dolphins.
And that was easily the best CSI possession of the game. The ball kept moving. They used the drive opportunity to kick out there. Once it was Jade Spencer who got the ball just inside the free throw, and the Dolphins moved it around the perimeter.
Beautiful give and go that time by the Ducks, but Krantz can't complete the layup, and here come the Dolphins. Latunji, Lavature, now Kopech. Dolphins moving the ball around nicely. Now it's Latunji, drives inside, misses the layup. Spencer's putback is up, no good. and the ball goes off Stevens. Tough break that time for the Dolphins. Couple of good looks, Joe. Couldn't convert.
And these last two possessions, the Dolphins have looked energized out there, moving the ball very well and playing much more unselfishly. As we heard head coach TJ Tibbs mention during our halftime interview, he thought his team was being selfish with the ball in that first half. That certainly hasn't been the case these last two possessions, and I'm sure he'd love to see that continue.
Lavature's long two-pointer is up, no good, and the rebound is going to be grabbed by Florio, and here come the Ducks. Spencer Cook, they work the ball around now over to inside to Florio, who's able to float it up and in. 46-28 the score, as now it's Taylor with the basketball for the Dolphins. Now Kopech driving down the baseline. His floater is up, no good. And going up high for the rebound is Krantz for the Ducks. And here come the Ducks looking to run. Pass inside, knocked away by Spencer, and played now by Lavature. Fed inside to Latunji, who jams it up and in. Nice move by Latunji, his second basket of the second half. He has 6, and the Dolphins trail 46-30.
First Latunji dunk energized the Dolphins. I look for more of the same here.
Omari misses the layup, but grabs his own rebound and able to lay it up and in, and that was a bad defensive play that time, Joe, by the Dolphins.
And a quick shot taken by the Ducks. If CSI comes away with that rebound and heads back the other way quickly, momentum really could have turned in their favor, and that's just an unfortunate break for the Dolphins as Amari quickly grabbed his own rebound, put up the easy basket for 2. Then the Dolphins come back the other way and commit a turnover, and that's a quick way to really stifle any momentum you may have built off of that emphatic dunk by Latunji, his second such dunk of this game. The first really got the Dolphins going in that first quarter. They hadn't been up on the scoreboard yet. The dunk accounted for the Dolphins' first 2 points. As you'll get a look at this second dunk by Latunji off a great pass from Laventure. And Latunji throws it down, but unfortunately the Ducks quickly answer and now lead by 18 once again.
So it's the Ducks with the basketball now as it's Winnick, as the Ducks able to weave out by the three-point line. Costco drives his way inside, but the ball's going to be knocked out of bounds. Last touch by the Dolphins. So once again, Joe, the Ducks missed their first shot, but the Dolphins can't control the rebound.
And rebounding has become more of an issue as this game has progressed. I really can't attribute it to fatigue, as the rebounding really started to turn about midway through the first half, and Stevens has rebounded much more like we're accustomed to seeing them rebound the basketball since that point.
Winnick with the basketball, feeds it over to Coffey. His shot is up, no good. A fight for the rebound is 3 players out on the floor, and we're going to have a whistle and a red jump ball call, and the possession arrow, I believe, will remain with Stevens.
And great effort from both teams there trying to chase down that rebound. But once again, it is the Ducks that come away with it. They maintain possession, leading by 18, looking once again to extend their lead to 20 points.
Just 1 second to shoot here for the Ducks, so they're going to have to catch and pretty much shoot it here with 12:38 remaining here in the second half as they're able to lob it inside, but Krantz unable to grab it, but it's the Dolphins now with the basketball. Latunji feeds it out to Rossiter. Rossiter working it out to Lavature. His open three-pointer is good. So Lavature leading all scorers for the Dolphins with 8, and we're going to have a whistle and a timeout on the floor as the Dolphins able to cut the lead down to 15. It'll be a full timeout. So we're going to step aside to take a break. 12:26 remaining here in the second half to score. Stevens 48, Dolphins 33. We'll step aside, take a break, and we'll be right back.
One-on-One is an independently owned and operated physical therapy center since 1999.
One-on-One has multiple offices located in Staten Island and in Brooklyn.
One-on-One has been getting people back to living pain-free for almost 14 years.
The number one goal of One-on-One is to provide quality health care for our community and continue to strive to be the best in our field.
One-on-One physical therapy gets our clients back to work, back to play, and back to function as soon as possible. We help them reclaim their life.
We're back here with the Dolphins trailing by a score of 48-33, and Joe, Rudy Lavature is really the only Dolphin player so far tonight that's operated efficiently offensively. In 7 minutes, 3 of 4 from the field, including 2 of 3 from the three-point line. The only 2 3-pointers the Dolphins hit, and that have helped them cut the lead down to 15.
And those three-pointers were huge, as the Dolphins have shown they can move the ball into some open threes. They simply haven't knocked them down up until this point in the game, where Laventure has now knocked down back-to-back shots from downtown. We'll see if the Dolphins can capitalize.
As the Ducks able to get the ball inside and lay it up and in, and a nice offensive sequence, Joe, that time by Stevens off the timeout.
And they get another good look inside. Nicely contested shot by the Dolphins, but still one-on-one from point-blank range, and you'll see players finish that more often than not.
Rossiter with the open three-pointer, and that's good. So the Dolphins starting to heat up from the three-point line. They've hit 3 out of their last 4, and they've cut the lead down to 14, but Stevens comes back, and standing there wide open was Spencer Cook. Joey had all the time in the world to bury that 3.
And that's a complete breakdown, something the Dolphins simply can't allow. That's the best scorer on this Stevens roster. You can't leave him open from three-point range in transition, off of a made basket nonetheless.
Taylor pulls up, and his open baseline jumper is good. And, Joe, the Dolphins finally starting to heat up a little bit offensively.
And hopefully it's not too little too late. Still plenty of time left in this game for the Dolphins to turn things around.
Well, they're going to need some defensive stops as it's Krantz with the basketball. The Ducks working the ball around the perimeter now as they hand the ball off to Winnick. Winnick loses possession, and now it's Rossiter feeding it up to Taylor. Taylor spinning his way inside, and we're going to have a whistle and a foul called on the Ducks before the shot, so that should lead to an inbounds play for the Dolphins.
The lead now 15 for the Ducks, but the Dolphins now, with some momentum here, have knocked down several shots in the field over the last couple of minutes, and that's something they've really failed to do throughout the entirety of this game. So we'll see if they can continue with their prowess from beyond the arc as Rossiter finally hits his first three-pointer. The first player other than Laventure to hit a 3 at all for the Dolphins in this game, as it will be Rossiter inbounding.
So Rossiter to inbound the basketballs. The Dolphins try to work their way back now from their 15-point deficit. Taylor with the basketball now. Bounce pass goes up over to Rossiter. Rossiter at the three-point line. Rossiter trying to drive his way inside. His short jumper is up, no good. And the Ducks grab the rebound, and they're looking to run. Dolphins able to slow down the Ducks' attack as the ball gets fed back. And we're going to have a whistle and a traveling violation. So the Ducks are going to turn the ball over here, Joe.
And the Dolphins have stepped up their game defensively as we get a look at what the Dolphins have started to do well here over the last couple of minutes. Right there you see Christian Taylor knocking down the mid-range shot off the dribble. The Dolphins will absolutely need more of that as they've also started to knock down shots from three-point range off some good ball movement that we didn't see back in the first half. TJ Tibbs, the Dolphins head coach, mentioned to us he thought his team was playing selfishly. That certainly hasn't been the case these last couple of minutes.
So it's Rossiter with the basketball now for the Dolphins. Rossiter feeding it out to Latunji, who lays it up and in. 8 points now, and the Dolphins able to cut the lead down once again now to 13. Cosgrove with the basketball out behind the three-point line. He hands the ball off to Florio. Florio guarded by Laventure. Florio's pull-up jumper from the free throw line extended is no good. Laventure grabs the rebound, and here come the Dolphins with an opportunity to cut into that lead. Rossiter, the open three-pointer is up, no good. And the rebound grab by the Ducks, and here they come looking to run. Driving down the lane and laying the ball up is Winnick, but he's going to get called for the offensive foul.
And right there, Rudy Laventure with the defensive play, drawing the charge and forcing yet another turnover by the Ducks, who've started to play a bit more sloppily over the last couple of minutes as the Dolphins now creeping their way back into this game. The lead trimmed down to 13 as no call there. Player goes down for the Ducks. That was Florio who got run over. It's Rossiter now with the ball.
Rossiter with the basketball now for the Dolphins as they look to cut into that 13-point lead, the closest they've been here in the second half. Laventure with the basketball out by the three-point line. 10 seconds to shoot. Latunji with the basketball. Latunji works it up over to Rossiter. Rossiter trying to drive his way inside. He's cut off on the baseline that time by Winnick, and Winnick will get charged for the personal foul. It'll be the third team foul for the Ducks here or the 14th foul, I should say, for the Ducks here in the second half. So the Dolphins will inbound the basketball.
And it will be Michael Zignorski and Nathan Carpenter entering for the Ducks, replacing Winnick and Cosgrove.
Dolphins with the basketball now as it's Rossiter along the baseline. Now it's Lavachar. He drives his way inside, and his layup is up and in. Lavachar, the offensive story for the Dolphins here in the second half. 8 of his 10 points have come here in the second half, and it's now an 11-point game. Dolphins able to get a hand on the ball, but not able to control it. It's fed inside, and the layup is up, no good. But there to put the ball back up and in his DP chair, Antonio. Big basket for the Ducks there, Joe, to break that Dolphin run.
And that was huge for the Ducks right there, getting the putback off of a block and then an offensive rebound. As the Dolphins respond with a basket of their own inside, the lead trimmed back down to 11 once again.
Spencer with his second basket of the game. He has 4, and that cuts the lead down to 11 with 8:28 remaining in the second half. Coffey drives his way inside. The shot's knocked away. Lavachar grabs the basketball, and here come the Dolphins 4-on-3. Rossiter, the wide open 3 is up, no good. Big miss that time by Rossiter, Joe. Could have cut it into single digits.
And that was a huge opportunity there for the Dolphins, as you said, Mike, to get back within single digits. And this place was ready to explode had that shot gone down.
Open jumper taken that time by Umari. Big turnaround there, Joe. Big 5-point swing in the game with 8 minutes remaining.
A huge miss there by Rossiter, and an even bigger make there for Amari, and he shot that shot from a very awkward position. I wasn't sure if that was his traditional shooting motion or if he was just indecisive, but he made that shot look easy and knocks it down. A big shot to extend the lead back to 13, as the live stats application says 14, but I think that was indeed a 2-pointer. So the lead for the Ducks will be 13 once that is corrected as we come out of this timeout, presumably what was a 30-second timeout. And it will be Dolphins basketball.
Yeah, and Robert Rossiter, Joe, had a wide open look from the three-point line. He's just 1 of 8 from the three-point line, and then a nice play by Stevens to come back with the basket. A big 5-point swing. The Dolphins had an opportunity to cut it to 8. Instead, they trail by 13.
Certainly an opportunity missed for the Dolphins, but still plenty of time left in this game. The deficit is 13, but you have to remember a 30-second shot clock makes every possession precious now with 8 minutes to go in the second half.
So the Dolphins with the basketball now as they try to battle their way back once again from a 13-point deficit. They've cut the lead down to as little as 11 here in the second half. Kopech, a beautiful feed inside to Latunji, who jams it up at home. 57-46, the Dolphins trail by 11. Need defensive stops, Joe.
Absolutely, Mike, and once again, Latunji has energized this building.
Now it's Latunji with the basketball. Latunji by back move. Kopech, the open three-pointer is up, no good. Another opportunity, Joe. Dolphins can't hit the 3.
This place was ready to get loud once again. The Dolphins are 1 3-pointer away off a turnover from really getting this crowd back into this game in a big way, as they're already to our right making some noise as that foul is called against the Dolphins. So Stevens now with an opportunity to extend that lead back up to at least 13 from the free throw line. As we get a look at another instant replay here, the backdoor cut and the pass to Latunji results in another two-handed jam. That's Latunji's 3rd dunk of this game, all seemingly coming at opportune times for the Dolphins, looking to get a run started and build some momentum in their favor. Right there, the Dolphins had just gotten back into this game and had a chance to get even closer should Kopech have knocked down that last 3-pointer. And it seems like when the Dolphins have had the opportunity to hit that big 3, they just haven't done it yet.
So Zignorski, who's been perfect from the line this year, he's now 5 of 5 as he hits the first, and he'll have 1 more upcoming. His second free throw is up and in, so the Ducks extend the lead back to 13 with 7 minutes and 10 seconds remaining here in the second half. Taylor with the basketball. Now it's Lavachar. Lavachar feeds the ball up over to Flagg. Flagg finished with 20 in his last game, struggling from the line here today as Taylor drives up and lays it up and in. Dolphins cut the lead down to 11 once again. As the ball is fed that time and taking the ball inside is Walsh. He misses the shot, but the putback is up and in. Another missed opportunity, Joe, that time for the Dolphins.
And it's DiPietrantonio once again. And his offensive rebounding has proved big here during this Dolphins stretch of shooting well, as that time it's Kopech for 3.
So Kopech buries the 3-pointer, and the Dolphins now get themselves back to within 10. They trail 61-51 with 6:20 left in the second half. Florio with the basketball. Florio works the ball in the corner. Now it's Umari. Umari looking to work against Lavachori. That time he drove inside and got it up and in. And that time he took the freshman on defensively and was able to take it to the basket.
And right there, no Dolphins player moved over to stop the ball. They both look to cut off the potential passing lane.
Now Lavachor, Savage, over to Kopik. Kopik, another three-pointer. That's up, no good. But the long rebound comes out, and Flagg able to grab it for the Dolphins. Flagg driving it up and laying it up and in. Dolphins cut the lead down to 10 once again. 63-53, 5:40 remaining in the game. Ducks with the basketball now. Umari looking to drive it inside. He lays it up and in and draws the foul. Big move that time by Frank Umari, the 5'9" junior.
And how big has Amari been, really slowing the Dolphins down by putting big points up on the scoreboard for the Ducks. The Dolphins' efficiency from the field has drastically increased over these last few minutes, but it's been Amari who's had the answer down at the other end for the Ducks, seemingly each and every time the Dolphins hit that big basket.
Yeah, Umari now with 21 points, Joe, in the game on 10 of 13 shooting. So Umari's really been hurting the Dolphins here so far tonight.
He has, but he couldn't do more damage from the line there, so the lead remains 12. The Dolphins running out of time.
So the Dolphins with the basketball now as it's Taylor with the basketball. Taylor, a crossover move and drives it up to the basket and lays it up and in. So Taylor, who had no points in the first half, 7 points here in the second half to make it a 10-point lead once again. And it's going to be a timeout on the floor by Stevens. It's going to be a full timeout. So we'll step aside to take a break. 5 minutes, 18 seconds remaining here in the second half. Ducks 65, Dolphins 55. We'll step aside, take a break, and we'll be right back.
Most party fouls are pretty dumb. But if you decide to drink and drive underage, you could lose your license and your freedom. Underage drinking and driving. The ultimate party foul.
We're back here. We have 5 minutes and 18 seconds remaining in the game. Dolphins have been able to cut into that big Duck lead, Joe, and cut it back down to 10, 65-55.
And the Dolphins have played much better basketball here in the second half. They've shot a much better percentage from the field, though the Ducks have answered by increasing their efficiency from the field as well. It's really been Frank Amari during this latest Dolphins run, and I'm not even really sure you can call it a run. The Dolphins do have the scoring advantage here in the second half, as you see that last and one by Frank Amari. He failed to convert from the free throw line, but the Dolphins have outscored Stevens here in the second half, I believe by 3 points. The Dolphins entered the second half trailing 35-22, now trailing by 10, 65-55, with only 5:18 to go. Every stop here for the Dolphins, absolutely huge.
So Umari hurting the Dolphins from the field. 21 points on 10 of 13 shooting, so he's played very efficiently. Umari taking it down the lane, laying it up. That's no good. A fight for the rebound, and here come the Dolphins. Looking to run. Savage to Latunji. That shot is up. No good. The ball's going to be knocked off of Flagg's hands and out of bounds, so it'll be Duck basketball. Dolphins going for the big play, Joe, but unable to convert.
And that was a great sequence for Savage, who defended Amari very nicely on that last defensive possession of the Dolphins, and then found Latunji up above the rim, had a good open look as he attempts to steal there, and now the Ducks head the other way.
So now it's the Ducks with the basketball as they have a 10-point lead as Zignorski gets tied up by Bracic. It'll be a jump ball, and this time the possession arrow will go to the Dolphins.
And that's a huge turn of events there for the Dolphins, forcing the jump ball and gaining possession. Their defensive intensity has increased drastically as well over these last few minutes. We'll see if they can match that intensity at the offensive end. They're running out of time, only 4.5 minutes to go, trailing by 10.
As the ball is fed inside to Flagg, his layup is up, no good, and the Ducks grab the rebound. So Dolphins with an opportunity to cut it down to 8. But Flagg can't hit the shot, and now it's the Ducks with the basketball. Nice play by the Dolphins as Flagg gets a turnover. Flag looking to run inside, feeds it into Taylor, who lays it up and in. Nice play that time by Flag, and the Dolphins cut it down to single digits for the first time here in the second half.
And that was started once again by a strong defensive play from Raven Savage inside, keeping his hands up and forcing the turnover in the paint by the Ducks, and then good passing in transition for the Dolphins headed the other way, resulted in a wide open layup for Christian Taylor.
So now Taylor will draw the foul. That's going to be his third personal, 17th foul for the Dolphins. So that's going to send Dylan Walsh to the free throw line to shoot a 1-and-1 here for the Ducks. Walsh 6 of 7 from the line coming into the game tonight, and he hits the first to open the Duck lead back up to 9.
And he hits the first free throw there with a very unorthodox free throw shooting motion. You'll get a look at it once again here on this second free throw attempt as Robert Rossiter checks back in for the Dolphins. The 5 for the Dolphins right now: Rossiter, Latunji, Bracic, Taylor, and Flag.
As the second free throw is up and in, so the Ducks, who struggled a little bit from the line here in the second half, come up with 2 big ones there, Joe.
And those are 2 big free throws, extending the lead back to double digits now inside 4 minutes remaining. Every possession for the Dolphins is critical.
Flag with the basketball out by the three-point line. Flag looking to drive his way inside. His shot's going to be knocked away. A lot of contact both ways, nothing called, so it'll remain Dolphin basketball with 15 to shoot, 3:48 remaining here in the second half.
And I thought there certainly could have been an offensive foul called there against Flag, who lowered the shoulder. The call was not made, but then he was emphatically rejected inside by Thomas Cook.
As it's going to be Taylor with the basketball for the Dolphins. Taylor out by the three-point line. Now it's Latunji. The open three-pointer is up, no good, but Taylor grabs the rebound and lays it up and in. Good second half for Taylor. He now has 11, and the Dolphins have cut it down to 8 once again. Zignorski with the basketball, gets it over to Walsh. Walsh driving his way inside. His floater is up, no good. The ball's going to be knocked out of bounds. Last touch by the Ducks, so it'll be Dolphin basketball. And, Joe, the Dolphins have left the door open. Let's see what they can do.
And it looks like we have an injury down around the baseline as Latunji was down for just a moment. But it looks like, he won't get to his feet, so we may have to have the trainer come out on the court. But back to your point, Mike, the Dolphins here in the second half, late in the second half, have seen their offense created by some strong defense at the other end of the floor. And good defensive plays have resulted in transition opportunities, some open looks around the rim. But in the half court, the Dolphins have thrived as well. They've really gotten it done offensively here in the second half. We said they needed to improve their shooting from the field here in half number 2. They have done that, but they got started a bit late here in the second half. We'll see if they have enough time to close this 8-point gap. It is Dolphins basketball with 3:19 to go in the second half. Every possession is huge. As you get a look here at this replay, Dolphins defense creating offense as the Dolphins come away with the steal, head back the other way. A great pass there from Stephen Flagg, finding Christian Taylor running in transition, and that's really exemplifies what the Dolphins need to do to close out this game and come away with this win, and what they've done throughout the later portion of the second half.
Big possession coming up here for the Dolphins. They need points as they trail by 8 with 3:12 remaining here in the second half. Flag with the basketball. Flag uses the Rossiter pick. Now it's Rossiter out by the three-point line. Dolphins have already taken 15 seconds off the shot clock. Flag with the basketball. Flag turns the ball over. Is that time a little bit of miscommunication? Big turnover there for the Dolphins, Joe. They burned 20 seconds off the shot clock and then turned the ball over.
And that was created by good defense from the Ducks. Robert Rossiter was initially open in that right corner, but I think the Ducks defense was completely aware of where Rossiter was on the floor, and as soon as they rotated to pick him up in that right corner, Stephen Flagg had already left his feet, passes while in the air. Rossiter tries to cut, creating the turnover.
The Ducks careless with the basketball, and they turn the ball over as well. So that gives the Dolphins another opportunity here with 2:42 remaining here in the second half. Taylor with the basketball. Taylor trying to use the Rossiter pick. Taylor driving his way inside. His fourth shot is up, no good. The ball's going to be knocked out of bounds as the one official under the basket pointed the ball to the Dolphins, but the outside official is going to call a loose ball foul on the Dolphins, and that's going to lead to a 1-and-1 here, Joe, for the Ducks.
And these free throws for the Ducks, very big, and if you can get that lead back up to 10, you really have to like the position you're in now. With only 2.5 minutes to go, the Dolphins really have to speed up their offense. And in the half court, they've had a tough time playing fast. It's been in transition that they've really thrived. playing a high-paced game, but they're running out of time here with 2:32 to go. You have to think the Ducks will begin to milk the clock, and the Dolphins won't be able to force as many turnovers. Turnovers have been a huge source of Dolphins scoring here in the second half.
So the first free throw is up and in, so Cook hits his first, and Joe, as the game got down the stretch and the game got tight, got to give Stevens a lot of credit. They started to hit their free throws.
They have, and I mentioned just before, moments ago, I should say, how the Dolphins have really thrived scoring off of turnovers in the second half after only scoring 3 points off of turnovers here, or in the first half, I should say. They've scored 11 in the second half, and it seems as if that factor will now be eliminated with only 2:30 to go in this game.
So the Dolphins cut the lead down to 8 and had possession of the basketball, but they now find themselves trailing by 10 with 2:20 remaining. Rossiter inside, misses the layup but draws the foul.
How big would it have been had that shot gone down and an opportunity for a three-point play had come of it, but instead it will be 2 from the line for Robert Rossiter. More importantly, as I've heard so many times, it stops the clock with 2:17 to go in this game. Dolphins still trailing by 10. I don't believe CSI has gotten any closer than 8 here in this second half, and now with only 2:17 to go, Rossiter with the chance to bring them back to within 8.
So Rossiter hits the first. He'll have one more upcoming, and for Rossiter, the first time he's been to the free throw line here this afternoon. One more free throw upcoming here for Rob. His second free throw is up and no good. So the Dolphins trail by 9 with 2:15 remaining. And if you're Stevens here, Joe, no reason to hurry.
Absolutely not. Just avoid turning the ball over or taking a bad shot early in the shot clock, and it seems like that's what they're going to do here.
Cook with the basketball now as we now have 2 minutes remaining in the second half. A wild shot by Stevens, and once again they open the door for the Dolphins as Flagg drives his way inside, misses the layup on the 2-and-1, but he's going to draw the foul.
And it looked like Stevens was going to milk the clock, and then seemingly out of nowhere, attacking the rim, they put up a wild shot. As you said, Mike, the Dolphins come away with the loose ball. I'm not even sure that shot contacted rim or backboard. The Dolphins get out in transition and once again draw a foul to stop the clock. But fortunately for the Ducks, the Dolphins not yet in the bonus and will not go to the free throw line. So Dolphins inbounding along the baseline, 1:52 to go, and the Dolphins absolutely need to come away with a basket here, Mike.
So let's see what the Dolphins could do as Flagg inbounds the basketball. Now it's Lavitcher, whose offensive production helped bring the Dolphins back into the game here in the second half, but he misses the baseline jumper, and now Stevens with the basketball and a 9-point lead, and that was a big miss that time, Joe, for the Dolphins.
The Dolphins needed to shoot quickly. Certainly could have done a lot worse than that in terms of a quality look, and the Ducks turn it over once again.
Now it's Taylor with the basketball for the Dolphins. 1:28 remaining. Lavitcher, the open three-pointer is good. Lavitcher leads all Dolphins scorers now with 13 points, and the Dolphins cut the lead down to 6 with 1:24 remaining. It's going to be a full timeout, so why don't we step aside here and take a break. 1 minute, 24 seconds remaining here in the second half. 69-63 to score. We'll step aside, take a break, and we'll be right back.
One-on-One is an independently owned and operated physical therapy center since 1999.
One-on-One has multiple offices located in Staten Island and in Brooklyn.
One-on-One has been getting people back to living pain-free for almost 14 years.
The number one goal of One-on-One is to provide quality health care for our community and continue to strive to be the best in our field.
One-on-One physical therapy gets our clients back to work, back to play, and back to function as soon as possible. We help them reclaim their life.
We're back here. The Dolphins trail by 6, 69-63. And, Joe, the Dolphins got off to a slow start in the second half where they entered trailing by 13, but have been able to cut the lead all the way back down to 6.
And it's been a very strong showing for the Dolphins here in the second half, have now outscored the Ducks by 6. But given how that first half went, you have to be extremely happy with what the Dolphins have done here in half number 2. They've really improved their efficiency from the field now, shooting at nearly 33%. And given where they were just about 10 or 15 minutes ago, that's a huge jump. And they've held a Stevens team that's shot very well from the field this season to only 36% shooting. But with only 1:25 left, the Dolphins need stops.
So the Dolphins looking to press in the backcourt. Stevens able to inbound the basketball. as they lob the ball in, and the ball's going to be played now by Zignorski. And Zignorski's going to draw the foul, and that's going to be the 19th foul on the Dolphins. So Zignorski will have to go to the free throw line to hit a one-on-one as we have a little bit of a couple plays getting together. And it's going to result now in free throws as Michael Zignorski's going to go to the free throw line, Joe, for the Ducks to shoot a big one-on-one.
I think what happened there is Zignorski took exception to Jade Spencer stepping over him after he went down on the court and then gave him a shoulder bump that the officials didn't see, as both teams are pointing in the other direction looking for a call against the other side. Neither team will get one, and it's Zignorski shooting 2 huge free throws here for the Ducks, leading by 6 with 1:14 to go. Taylor and Rossiter check back in for the Dolphins, replacing Savage and Spencer.
So the Dolphins now find themselves trailing by 6 with just 1:14 remaining, and if Zignorski misses, Dolphins need to grab this rebound. So let's see how Zignorski goes as he goes to the free throw line and hits the big front end of the one-on-one. Big shot there, Joe, because it makes it a 3-possession game.
You took the words right out of my mouth, Mike. A 3-possession game with only 1:14 left and a 30-second shot clock puts the Dolphins in an extremely difficult position.
So Kopech will check back into the game for the Dolphins as Zignorski's second free throw is up and in, so he hits both. And we'll have a substitution now for the Ducks as Kevin Florio will check back in. And Dolphins need points, Joe, on this possession.
And they not only need points, they need them very quickly. 1:13 on the clock.
Taylor with the basketball, brings the ball across the midcourt line, hands off to Rossiter. Rossiter now spinning inside, now gets the ball up over to Lavachur. Lavachur working it in the corner to Kopech. His open three-pointer is up, no good. And the rebound grabbed by the Ducks, and Kopech commits the foul. So Dolphins burned some time off the clock, couldn't get the basket, and now with less than a minute remaining, Joe, find themselves trailing by 8, and the Ducks will go to the line to shoot 2.
Well, the Dolphins got the look they wanted, a wide-open 3 in the corner for Christian Kopech. He couldn't knock it down, and I think that may be all she wrote for the Dolphins here in this game, as it's Thomas Cook at the line shooting 2, and you have to think if he can knock down one or both of these, the Dolphins would then need at least a pair of 3-pointers, but he misses the first, so the Dolphins could remain just in this game, hanging by a thread, should Cook miss the second of a pair here from the free throw line. Dolphins, of course, need to secure the rebound.
One more free throw coming for Cook. He hits it, and now the Dolphins trailing by 9 with 54 seconds remaining. Lavachur driving inside. His layup goes up and in, and he's been the bright spot for the Dolphins offensively, Joe, with 15 points as he commits the foul in the backcourt now. And once again, Stevens will go to the line to shoot 2, and the Dolphins are going to need a couple of misses here from the Ducks.
And it was Lavachur's shooting that really got the Dolphins' offensive success started here in the second half, and really he helped spur them on to increasing their efficiency from the field, where they'd really struggled throughout the entirety of the game to that point. He's now 6 of 8 from the field, and really no other Dolphins player has even been semi-efficient, with the exception of Christian Taylor, who is 5 of 12 from the field on his own. So it's really been Taylor and Lavachur who have been the 2 efficient Dolphin players. Everyone else has shot rather poorly from the field, as the Dolphins now see their deficit increase to 9.
Yeah, and Dylan Walsh hitting all 6 of his free throws here in the second half, Joe. Big free throws down the stretch as the long three-pointer taken by Flagg is up, no good. Stevens with the basketball now, and about a 5-second differential on the shot clock and the game clock. Stevens able to feed the ball inside, and laying it up and in is Winnick, and that'll open the lead back up to 11 with 25 seconds remaining. So looks like the Dolphins, Joe, are going to drop down to 1 and 4 as Taylor misses the three-pointer, but will go to the free throw line to shoot 3 with just 18.3 seconds remaining.
And it appears the Dolphins will indeed drop to 1 and 4 on the season, but it's really been a tale of 2 halves for the Dolphins in this game. They may not even come out of the second half having outscored the Ducks, but they absolutely played much better here in half number 2 than they did in half number 1. They shot the ball much better from the field. Their defensive intensity was there for really the entirety of the second half. They really got lax toward the end of the first half, really up until late in that first half, they had played well defensively. So take a look at the defensive effort from the majority of this game, especially in the second half. Look at what you did offensively, especially in the second half as well, and you can really take what you did offensively in half number 2 and use that going forward is what really worked, because they had some shots inside, some better looks inside, and began to knock down some open shots from three-point range and mid-range as well. That was the product of unselfish play and good ball movement, also forcing turnovers and getting out in transition.
So the Dolphins have cut the lead down to 9, but there's just 18.3 seconds remaining as the shot clock is off, and the Dolphins able to come away with the steal, but Spencer unable to convert the layup, and now the Dolphins will commit the foul in the backcourt, and with just 14 seconds remaining, Joe, for both the men's and women's team, you're almost ready to start thinking about John Jay and conference play beginning for both the men and the women this Saturday.
And conference play is always an exciting time. We saw this men's team succeed in a big way in the conference last year, not only going unbeaten in the CUNYAC conference during the regular season, but of course winning the CUNYAC championship. The same goes for the women, who also won the CUNYAC championship. And, of course, you'd like to go into conference play with a much stronger effort than this. But, again, it was a tale of two halves. Take a look at what you did in half number 2 if you're the Dolphins, and use that in your next game, because I think this second half provided some really good building blocks, especially offensively for the Dolphins. They moved the ball much more effectively here in the second half, and as a result, were much more efficient from the field.
So Walsh misses his first free throw but hits the second. He's 7 of 8 from the line here in the second half, as now Taylor gets the ball up over the flag. His open three-pointer is no good, and that's going to do it. The College of Staten Island loses their home opener here by a final score of 77-67.
And a very disappointing result for the Dolphins, of course, in this their home opener. But again, they played a much stronger game in the second half. And if they had brought that same intensity, not even throughout the entire first half, but for the last 4 minutes of the first half, they were trailing by only 3 points. You mentioned it before, Mike. The score was 21-18 with 4:12 to go in the first half. And then the Dolphins allowed Stevens Institute to close out that first half on a huge run. I believe that run was 11-4, and that big run to close out the first half really set up the Dolphins for failure in half number 2, where they came out a bit slow in the second half, but then really picked it up about 5 minutes into the second half. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough, and despite the better effort in half number 2, the Dolphins only closed their first half deficit by 3 points. The Dolphins trailed by 13 at halftime, lose the game by 10. So despite a better effort in half number 2 that gave them a lot to build on, there's still things this team needs to correct.
So the Dolphins complete their non-conference opening part of their schedule, Joe, finishing with a record of 1-4. They will actually play the first game on Saturday against John Jay on the road beginning at 12 o'clock, and then the women, who won for their 4th time in 5 games, will play the second game beginning at 2 o'clock. So the Dolphins going back on the road again to start their conference season, and really, you see flashes from this Dolphin team, and you can see the talent there. But a lot of new players, a lot of new freshmen, a new coach, and you can see the team still getting this to act together.
This is a very athletic team, and something else I noticed is that they do have very good court vision. They did a good job finding openings, especially in the second half and out in transition. They're certainly a team that's very active defensively, and that can force turnovers, but at times mistakes they made defensively in rotations or not grabbing even a defensive rebound and allowing second chance points, that really did them in the second half and throughout the entirety of this game. Defensive breakdowns, especially late in that first half, really hurt them, where Stevens Institute went on that big run, but we saw what this team is capable of in the second half. They can knock down shots, they can force turnovers, and really shut down the opposition defensively while getting out in transition as well. Their stifling defense in half number 2 created opportunities, and in the half court they showed they could move the ball and could knock down some open shots. If they can do that in their next games, these upcoming conference games, you have to like their chances of performing very well in the CUNYAC.
And Joe, the Dolphins fell behind by 19 points with 16:55 remaining, and they were really struggling, and it looked like Stevens may come out and be able to blow them out in the second half, but Rudy Lavature came into the game for the Dolphins, led all scores for the Dolphins, played extremely well, and the Dolphins were able to cut the lead down to 8 a couple of times with the basketball. They were unable to get a basket there, and they got the lead down to as low as 6 with just 1 minute and 24 seconds remaining, but Stevens able to close out the game with an 8-4 run, Joe, to end up winning winning by 10.
And Stevens Institute deserves a lot of credit for the way they performed late in that second half as well. This building was rocking, a lot of noise coming from the Dolphin faithful here at the Sports and Recreation Center, but Stevens Institute, especially Frank Amari, really stayed composed, continued to take quality shots, and despite some of the turnovers that the Dolphins forced, they never really let the Dolphins get too close. Of course, 8 points is threatening, especially with 5 or 6 minutes remaining in the game, but Stevens Institute really tightened up their defense on key possessions where the Dolphins could have gotten that basket that brought them to within 6, and that's a mark they never reached, as the Dolphins never got closer than 8 points in the second half, failed to knock down the big shots, and late in the game, as I said, Stevens did tighten up their defense and ultimately did extend their lead back to 11 or 12 points late in the second half. The Dolphins simply couldn't get close enough to really make this interesting down the stretch, and a strong effort from Stevens Institute. They deserve a lot of credit as well. The Dolphins need to take away from what they did in the second half and carry that into the conference portion of their schedule as they head out on the road.
Yeah, and we look at the final stats up on your scoreboard, and the Dolphins shooting 32%, Joe, and, you know, with about 3 minutes into the second half, the Dolphins shooting percentage went down to about 20%, so they really finished the half very effectively offensively, and that's something that they'll look to build on, as both the men's and women's team will have 3 consecutive conference games coming up. John Jay and York on the road this Saturday and next Tuesday respectively, and then the next home game for both teams a week from Saturday, December 9th, against CCNY, which will be on.
Of course, you notice the vast improvement from what the Dolphins did in the first half and half number 2. You don't see that reflected on your screen, but we did mention how the Dolphins increased their shooting percentage at one point in the second half. It was around 20, as you said, up to 32. Didn't hit a three-pointer until about 5 minutes into the second half, and they wind up shooting about 19% from downtown. And then you pointed it out to me, Mike, just now, that turnover number. The Dolphins were trailing in that department. I believe it was 12-9 turnovers. The Dolphins with 12, Ducks with 9 after one half. And then the margin now +4 in favor of the Dolphins to close out the game. The Ducks turn it over 23 times overall. The Dolphins only 19. They cleaned up their play in the second half, tightened up their defense, and shot better from the field. But against a very talented team that shoots the ball well themselves and defends well, it wasn't enough on this night.
So the Dolphins will drop to 1-4. Stevens will even out their record at 3-3, as the College of Staten Island will go into conference play this Saturday afternoon on the road against John Jay. Men's game first at 12 o'clock, followed by the women's game at approximately 2 p.m. So for our broadcast engineer, Arthur Kapakanakis, and Joe Foreman, this is Mike Babuski saying so long. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget to join us next Saturday, our next broadcast, CUNY Conference home doubleheader, as the men's and women will take on John Jay. We'll be on the air at 11:30 with the opening tip at 12 o'clock. So have a great afternoon, everybody, and we'll see you down the road. And don't forget to get all the latest information on everything about CSI Sports at csidolphins.com. Have a great night.